Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sarah's coming late. Yeah, she's gonna be late. She's at a
Good evening, muy buenas noches. Welcome to the West Hartford Public Schools Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 6, 2017, the last one of this academic year. Can you please call the roll?
here.
Here.
Mr. Overmeyer Velasquez.
Here.
Here.
Dan-
Here. Here.
So Jay is traveling, so we wish him well, and Sarah will be arriving late. She has a tennis award ceremony. Hugo, can you lead us in the pledge? We do have a request. Can you hear me, everybody? Is this on? It's kind of low. We do have a request for a revision to the agenda order, which is the following: to move the equity and excellence update to after public communications. Can I have a motion? Second. So all those in favor of amending the agenda order as stated, please say aye.
Hi.
So amended. We'll start, thank you. We start with student participation, but I'm guessing student participation is part of equity, correct? Very exciting. And public communications. Hugo, do you mind grabbing a list there, please? Just a reminder for those who have not yet done this before, these are comments on topics of interest from the public. We, as is our tradition, do not respond to comments. Individuals are allotted 3 minutes. At the 2-minute mark, you get the yellow card, and then at the 3-minute mark, you get the red card, and then you're ejected from the game. There are 20 minutes per subject, so about 6-7 people per subject. And please remember to state your name and your address prior to your statement. Thank you. First up, we have Chloe Amaya.
Hi, my name is Chloe Amaya, and I'm a junior at Hall High School. I'm speaking to support a later start to the school day, which would increase the focus of students and create an environment more conducive to learning. Requiring the day to start later would allow students to get the recommended amount of sleep. According to the Sleep Foundation, it's natural for teens to not be able to fall asleep until at least 11 p.m. This means that starting school at 7:30 does not allow teens to sleep for the recommended 8 to 10 hours. Not receiving the recommended amount of sleep can limit your ability to learn, listen, concentrate, and solve problems, and you may even forget important information like names, numbers, your homework, etc. I used to take the bus to school every morning, unless I missed it because of oversleeping. I woke up at 6 a.m. to complete my morning routine, and I left my house at 6:49 to catch the bus at 6:53. This meant that if I went to sleep at 11 p.m., I would not be able to get, I'd only be able to get 7 hours of sleep, and many other students have to take buses that were even earlier than mine. It's not easy to go to bed earlier because of the homework, studying, and projects, athletics, club activities, jobs, etc. So this would make starting the school day later the best option. Freshman year, I had Earth Science first period, and my teacher told us that she sometimes curved our tests because first period averages always tended to be lower. The amount of sleep that we receive should not negatively impact our academic performances. After the Minnesota Public School District pushed the starting times of 7 high schools from 7:15 to 8:40, Dr. Wallstrom, a professor at the University of Minnesota, found that students benefited by obtaining 5 or more extra hours of sleep per week. I think that many people worry about the extracurricular activities being pushed back, but starting school even 1 hour later can have extremely positive effects on students. As I've moved through high school, I have noticed the psychological effects of having such an early start to the day. Students resent school for being the reason they receive such a minimal amount of sleep. Waking up at 6 or 6:15 in the morning already leaves us feeling tired and unhappy, and these are the feelings that we arrive to school with. This leads students to associate feelings of fatigue and overall malaise with school, and it results in an overall negative approach to education in general. I urge you to support starting the school day later so that students can learn better, be less distracted by their fatigue, and get the most out of their education by being happy to come to school each day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amaya. Can you please state your address for the record?
My address?
Your home address?
80 Whiting Lane.
Thanks. West Hartford. Yep. Thank you. Next, John Bonet.
I have 3 minutes. I wish to speak in favor of the Sarah Rankin initiative to start school later, hopefully to begin next year. It is I think, great idea that has come back. I know you've considered it before. And in my view, worthy and great ideas always come back no matter how much they're suppressed. In this case, the idea has been supported by the adult doctors nationally. It's been supported by the children's doctors nationally. It's been supported by psychiatrists and sleep doctors, parents, kids, and also teachers when they whisper because they're afraid to go public with their support of it. The people who don't support it, I suspect, are union bosses. And I don't think that union bosses should dictate what is best for our children and what is best for the future of their education and their health. We should listen to parents, physicians, psychologists, and our teachers. So as fiduciaries for the school system and agents of the state, I'm asking you in the interests of our children, and I have a freshman at Conard this year, and we are definitely feeling the effects of new teenage sleep deprivation. I'm asking you to support the initiative to have Conard and Hall start at 8:15, and I think you can implement it by this September. You don't have to appoint extensive committees and talk it to death the way it was the last time. I want to thank you very much, and I would urge you to even consider starting summer school at 8 o'clock instead of 7:30. Summer is supposed to be a little bit more relaxed and fun. So anyway, thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, your address, please. Sorry.
Oh, it's 19 Scarsdale Road.
19 Scarsdale Road.
Right
Thank
across
you.
from Sedgwick School.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, folks, please remember to give us your address. Next up, Mary Fleischle.
Good evening. I'm Mary Fleischle, and I live at 28 Brunswick Avenue. I appreciate how much you care about kids in our town. I also know that with the state budget problems, West Hartford will need to continue to be very careful with our budget. So in this time of limited budgets, aren't you excited that there is a change you could make and implement that costs nothing, but that has been proven to reduce car accidents, reduce levels of depression, and improve academic performance? The change I'm talking about, of course, is moving the start time of high school later. There's increasing evidence of the benefit of later start times to high schoolers. So other districts in Connecticut, such as Greenwich and Wilton, have moved their start times later. My son is a freshman at Conard, and I witnessed firsthand the zombie parade of kids into the building or to the bus stop at 7 a.m. Many of them are carrying coffee with them. Should 16-year-olds really be drinking coffee just to get through their day? I know you may think that this is our fault as parents for not making our kids go to bed earlier. However, research has shown that teenagers' sleep cycles are actually different, and they have trouble falling asleep before 11. So in order to get their recommended 8 hours of sleep, they need to start school later. I can tell you that my son used to get up without fail at 6 a.m., even on weekends. He is a different person now. He struggles to get up for school and sleeps much later on weekends. My son was on the Conard soccer team this year, and I strongly value sports. I understand there are concerns about an impact of later start time on after-school sports. However, we now have lights on the fields that we didn't have the last time this was proposed. And since other districts have moved their start times later, we can find out what worked for them. I heard that Wilton, which strongly values sports, had a very successful transition to later start times. Their sports teams had one of their best seasons after the change. They won several state championships. So I don't actually see this as either we keep our kids safe and learning more effectively, or we keep sports. I think this change will actually benefit sports. There have been multiple studies that have found athletes perform better and have fewer injuries if they sleep more. I believe that eventually all high schools in Connecticut will move to later start times. I would think that West Hartford would want to be one of the early adopters and not one of the last. I'm so happy to live in West Hartford where education is highly valued. I have faith that you will continue to do all you can to maintain our coveted educational system. I believe that eventually this change will be made and we'll look back on it as something obvious to be done, like bike helmets or seat belts. And I hope you all are here to get the credit for making this change. Each year, you're creative in using limited budgets to deliver exceptional education. And each year, the administration manages to create high school schedules that accommodate varied course selections while ensuring class sizes are not too small. So I have faith that you will use all your creativity and problem solving to figure out how to address the logistical issues of this later start time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next I have Ms. Elaine Walker.
Hello. My name is Elaine Walker, and I live at 95 Richard Street in West Hartford, Connecticut. So fact, 44 states have had success in implementing this initiative. Just did a random Google search about 20 minutes before I came and noted that in Rhode Island, East Greenwich became the first public school district in Rhode Island to move both its middle school and high school start times a half hour closer to what is medically recommended. In Newport, in the 2016-17 school year, Roger High School changed its starting time from this year changes starting time from 7:30 a.m. to 8:50 a.m. for a 2:45 p.m. dismissal. The results: the portion of students reporting at least 8 hours of sleep on school nights jumped from about 16% to almost 55%. Reports of daytime sleepiness dropped substantially from 49% to 20%. First period tardiness dropped by almost half, and students reported having more time to eat a hot, more nutritious breakfast. The results were so impressive that the school made the change permanent. Fact, I have a household of 5, husband, wife, newly graduated 21-year-old, 16-year-old junior at Hall, and a 14-year-old who attends private school in Simsbury. So after doing a household consensus, all agree that this would be a great initiative. It was great to have a conversation with my family about school. My 21-year-old said, "Ma, get with the program. Even a half hour would make sense." My 16-year-old, I looked at this picture and with the alarm clock, and I really wanted to bring a huge clock because I would probably have hit her with it. It's just the one word that resonated with me all day today was angst. I cannot tell you how much angst we had from a preschooler at Smith School to running out the door, literally can't getting there fast enough, to constant frustration, probably starting in 8th grade, on getting her up, to actually putting her into, unfortunately, a school refusal mode, which she is now starting her day at 8:30, and that's a different issue. So I really urge you to take this matter into consideration, because time is really ticking on this situation, and I can't tell you how happy I would be. It probably won't impact me to have people start their day with a smile. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Chris Corcoran.
Members of the board, my name is Chris Corcoran, and I live at 26 Ellsworth Road in West Hartford. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I will keep my remarks brief in order to avoid the red card. I am speaking tonight in support of the same effort as others have spoken to, a later start time for schools. My sample size is 1. I have a daughter who graduated from Hall High last year. And certainly I saw the same type of incidents of just not being able to get to sleep. It wasn't a matter of us implementing a newer or earlier bedtime. She just stayed up late. And then to get up early and be expected to perform was really just not really realistic. I also read a number of different articles about the science behind it. One of the other reasons I'm here tonight, though, is because my son, who is going to be going into Bristow, I would love for, by the time he hits high school, that he has a later start time and a better opportunity to get the necessary sleep in order to maximize his performance. And certainly, just again, reading articles and different publications about the opposition to it, it's all about change. It's all about something new. There's going to be problems with jobs. There's going to be problems with sports. And I think that I would say that probably the same type of negative response or pushback to change probably happened with other major initiatives around public health, for example. So I did a quick Google search, and in August of 1990, San Luis Obispo, California became the first city to go with a citywide ban on smoking. And as of January 2014, there were 28 states that have followed suit because it made sense. It was a good policy thing to do. And similarly, with graduated driving, another initiative that started here in Connecticut in 2004, there was a 64% decrease in deaths of kids 16 to 17 between 2011 and 2014. And in the year 2014, there were no passengers aged 16 or 17 that were killed in crashes. And I would say pretty concretely that that's because smart policy was passed in order to make for a public good. So I think this is similar. I think there'll be some pushback, but I think as one of the speakers earlier tonight alluded, at the end of the day, it will be West Hartford that will be the leader if we adopt this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Friedman.
Hi, my name is actually Susan Gilmore, and I'm going to be reading for Elizabeth Friedman, who couldn't be here today. I live at 19 Auburn Road, and I also want to second the statement that I'm about to read. As both an educator, I teach at Central Connecticut State, and I'm also the mom of two wonderful but very tired teens who are currently attending Hall High School. So thank you for the chance to share Ms. Friedman's statement. Liz Freeman lives at 134 Clinton Ave in West Hartford, and she's writing to you as a concerned parent and as a family physician. A very prominent sleep researcher, Mary Karskadon, was a professor at my medical school in the 90s, and she is still there. I remember learning about Dr. Karskadon's findings about adolescent sleep patterns back then. And as a medical student in my 20s, I remember feeling relieved to learn that there had been nothing wrong with me, that her studies validated my own personal experience of naturally wanting to go to bed later and struggling to wake up in the morning as an adolescent. And my high school had started at 8:30. Later, I was surprised to learn about places that started high school much earlier than 8:30, but never thought it would have a direct impact on me. Then, as a West Hartford resident and a mom in the 2000s, I remember reading about West Hartford's decision not to start school later after a group of concerned parents had brought up the topic for discussion. I was disappointed at the time, but I was pleased to see that the sleep research was potentially making an impact, that I lived in a town where people can raise their concerns and that those concerns are considered, and that our schools are continually reevaluating how to do the best they can for our children. I admit I never really thought the discussion would come up again, but here we are now with a great opportunity to make a big difference for our children. As you know, the American Academy of Pediatrics, in a policy statement published in 2014, recommended that middle and high school students should aim for a starting time of no earlier than 8:30 a.m. This is based on study after study showing that there are natural changes in sleep patterns that occur during puberty and adolescence, and studies that show the widespread problem of sleep deficiency in adolescents. In doing some research for this discussion, I even found a study published in the journal Pediatrics in 2005, where Korean researchers concluded that, quote, academic demands and stress and early school start time are the most important contributing factors for sleep deprivation among Korean adolescents. So our teenagers are not alone in their struggles. When my older child went through middle school and then entered high school, I expected the struggles in the morning, as she had always been a bit of a night owl and a later sleeper. The thing that caught me more off guard, however, was watching our younger child, who is in middle school now. He had always been the early to bed, early to rise type as a young child. Then, in the latter part of elementary school, we started finding him up later and later, reading on his own. And gradually, more and more, while still in elementary school, we were having to wake him up rather than just him waking on his own, as he had previously done. Now, in middle school, the changes continue.
Ms. Gilmore, sorry, your time's up.
Okay.
Unless you want to wrap it up.
One more sentence?
One more sentence. Sure.
Okay. 2 sentences. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. As the CDC wrote in August 2015, among the possible public health interventions for increasing sufficient sleep among adolescents, delaying school start times has the potential for the greatest population impact. Thank you. And I want to present to the board a petition that we circulated and have signatures from a number of community pediatricians, including my
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we have time for one more speaker on this topic, Morgan Lloyd.
Hi, my name is Sierra Lyles, and I'm going to be speaking for Morgan Lloyd tonight because she couldn't make it. She lives at 76 Whiting Lane, West Hartford. I live at 181 Simsbury Road, West Hartford. All I grew up in West Hartford Public Schools, so I think we can all agree that being a teenager can really suck sometimes. Middle school and high school are notorious for being awkward, scary, and hard. These are the beginning of the formative years of our life. We learn how to be individuals, how to start being adults, how to learn. But I associate middle school and high school not with excitement of becoming my own person, but with thin carpets, bright lights, and exhaustion. Exhaustion was a badge of honor in high school. We would compare sleep horror stories in a way, competing with one another to see who was operating on the least amount of sleep. We bonded over the bags under our eyes, seeing them as proof that we were fighters, that our lives were vigorous and hard. Obviously, we were teenagers trying to be big and bad, but my point is that not only was sleep deprivation the norm, it was expected. I was lucky if I got 5 hours of sleep a night. Yes, lots of homework kept me up late, but the main problem was that I couldn't fall asleep earlier even if I tried. My body wasn't ready to sleep at 8 or 9, which is around when I'd have to fall asleep to get the baseline of 8 hours of sleep. No teenager I know can fall asleep on command, especially not that early. So to the teachers that tell us to just get to bed earlier, we know you mean well, but it's just not that simple. Sleep deprivation takes away more than just energy, moving beyond circadian rhythms and natural sleep cycles. I want to paint you a picture of the average morning of a middle or high schooler. You wake up with your face on top of a textbook, still open in your lap. You desperately want to hit the snooze on your alarm, but then you'd be late for the bus, maybe late for school, and have to run across the building with your overstuffed backpack, weighing more than your average 10-year-old child. So you shut off your alarm. It's playing the most annoying sound you can find. And you turn your lights on, squinting into the brightness. The sun hasn't risen yet, and the street lights are still on. You see the frost outside your window, and you dread to trek to the bus. As you go through the usual robotic motions, you think of the glorious moment 18 hours from now when you can crawl back underneath your covers in the same darkness you woke up in. You cram some toaster waffles into your mouth and head out the door, dragging your feet through the snow when a family member hasn't even taken the time to shovel the sidewalk in front of their house. You're wearing a lighter coat than you should be, not out of teenage rebellion, but because your locker is on the opposite side of the building from any of your classes, so you'll have to carry it around with you all day. You stand with a group of classmates, your breath visible on the sunrises. You stomp your feet to keep the blood flowing as you wait for the bus that always manages to come either 15 minutes late or 15 minutes early. At least it's warm in there. You leave for the bus and enter the world of linoleum and bright lights, heading to that lunch table with the few friends you actually know to compare those exhaustion badges of honor while you sit for an hour and a half before the bell rings. You trudge to class, slump in the hard chair, and take notes of the quadratic formula as if you could possibly absorb the information before 7:45 in the morning. And no matter how sunny, how warm it actually might be outside, it's rarely that warm before sunrise. Waking up in the dark where there are no cars driving by and no dogs being walked yet is one of the most lonely experiences, one that I think people tend to forget as they get older and leave high school behind. The world is cold, whether it's winter or not, and you lose the energy to smile. You sneak into a monotonous rhythm. Monotony becomes your lifestyle. I wish I was being dramatic. You have to understand.
Sorry, your time's up. Can you wrap it up?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
We want to learn and we want to be good students, but it's really hard when you have to pay 180 mornings of cold, dark loneliness. So please let us wake up when we're supposed to, and please let us wake up to a nice alarm, ones with natural light and evidence outside that there are people awake with us. 1 hour, that's all we ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We don't usually comment at these sorts of presentations, but I do want to say in advance of Tom's talking about it more extensively later that we have created a committee to look at exactly this question, both the science of it and the mechanics of how it might work if we were to implement it in the schools. So we just want to thank you for bringing the issue forward, and we really are already starting to address the question. So thanks again.
Next, we have two people in this slot, Helen Bretos and Ann Reynolds.
You want to come? My name is Ann Reynolds. I'm at 94 Brookmore Road. Helen and I are here. I'm greatly concerned with the notable increase in class size for next year's third grade class at Wolcott Elementary. This grade as a whole, I would say, let me first back up. I have been fortunate enough with my work schedule to have the flexibility to be in the school on a regular basis volunteering, and I've been witness to this grade as a whole, volunteering in the classroom, kindergarten, first grade, and now second grade. And when they were in kindergarten, it was 4 teachers. Last year, it went to 3. And what a year it was. The grade as a whole has a behavioral problem. I don't think it's town-wide, but it's definitely in this school. And I am just learning in the last few days that they are taking away that 4th teacher that we had been fighting for last year when they were in first grade. I had countless meetings, and to just learn a couple days ago that they are taking away that teacher, I think is a huge compromise to the grade as a whole. I have to say there's a lot of parents who don't have the flexibility to be in the classroom and to be witness to what I have been witness to for now 3 years. I have a feeling if they're taking the teacher away as they go into third grade, they will not have that teacher for 4th or 5th grade. I feel the grade as a whole, their entire learning is compromised in the classroom. I am fortunate to have a son who can deal with chaos. He can still get his work done, but I'm here speaking on behalf of the students who cannot. And I always wonder, what could my child be capable of if he was in a smaller classroom? So my main point here is really to say, please don't let these students have another compromise year. Please keep that 4th teacher.
Thank you.
Hello. I wasn't prepared to talk. I did write a letter. I will read to you. Dear board members.
Sorry, can you state your address, please?
154
Name.
Helen Cho Bredos, 154 Tunxis Road. Dear board members, I am writing in deep frustration over the experience my child has had in his previous first grade year, whereas the experience was clearly due to the fact that his class size was increased from 16 to 18 students to 24 students. My son has always thrived and enjoyed his learning experience since he started attending pre-K 3, and especially when he began his elementary school year at Wolcott. And sadly, his perception of quote-unquote learning and his attitude towards his day-to-day experience in his classroom was more and more negative each day. I did not come to the realization that he was not challenged and given the opportunity, as I had seen from other children his age and other fellow West Hartford schools, to acquire the fair amount of learning development until I had the chance to see the difference this past year's made in second grade. And the difference was, again, his class size, which was lowered back down to 16 to 18 students, which he benefited from, and many other students. I learned that besides special needs and behavioral issues, there was and is a unique environment in my son's cohort. All this needs to be taken in serious consideration for our children's needs for the next 2017-18 year and their class sizes and teacher needs. As a parent who moved to West Hartford, Connecticut for their child's education and the positive reputation of West Hartford Public Schools, I'm not so positive going forward knowing that there was no consideration about the increased class sizes once again. It is a fear that is a real and anticipated even more so by my fellow parents and myself, that our children may not transition well and thrive in their intermediate upper elementary years. We ask that you please consider this with discernment, our needs, as if it were your own child, to not have to undergo the many disadvantages our children experience with the larger class sizes. Parents and their children alike suffered greatly that year, and I am still hearing of these experiences to this day. We hope to be encouraged and have continued faith in the Board of Education of West Hartford to hear our voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Krista Eddie.
Yep, my name's Krista Eddy. My address is 69 Jackson Avenue in West Hartford, and I also am speaking on behalf of the class size. As Helen said, all of the students in this group are affected. My son doesn't have an IEP or a behavioral plan, but he was very affected and had a lot of negative effects noted in our first grade year with the larger classes versus the kindergarten and second grade year with the smaller classes. In kindergarten and second grade with the 4 classes, I saw differences like more individual attention, students cooperating better with each other, and less stressed teachers as well. In the first grade year with the 3 larger classes, I also was volunteering some in the classroom and also heard anecdotal information from my son about more behavioral issues, more stress on the students classroom-wide, and also the teachers, more stress on them, and less learning and growing in that year. We advocated last year to our principal at the time, and the change was made to better our students and teachers for this year. So why go back to what we know did not work? Part of the challenge is that our current principal is not the same one as last year or even as last fall. We've had 3 principals in the past year, and we have a new one coming up for this fall. So that makes it very challenging since there's no institutional memory, which is why we all came here tonight, because the principal who's in place now does not understand what happened in the past. So we hope you'll take our situation into consideration for the future of our students and teachers and not make us repeat what we've seen fail in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. And last I have on the list is Elena Sada. And if we have more speakers addressing after, I'm wondering if people could wait. We have some young kids here who want to present. So I don't know if there's anyone else after, but please, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Elena Sada, 12 Schoolhouse Drive, West Hartford. And I came with 2 speeches, one on the Seal of Biliteracy, which was just passed by the state of Connecticut, and I'm hoping that this district is one of the first ones in Connecticut to implement it, which will be fascinating. But just hearing my fellow mothers from Walcott School, my heart as a mother just, right now the only thing I can think of is I need to advocate for that cohort as well together with them. So I'm going to come back in the fall to talk about the Seal of Biliteracy, if that's okay. We wrote a letter and we collected some signatures, more to come because we just found out about the class going to 3. I echo the frustration. Last year when our children were in first grade, you heard about this from me 2 months ago and I cried here and I think I'm going to cry again because my child received 11 referrals as a 7-year-old. 3 principals in 5 months. You don't even get to try to explain to the principal what your child is like and what he needs. Last year, when our children were in the first grade, divided into 3 classes of 23 students, they suffered tremendously. This year, the same cohort was placed in 4 smaller classes, and it has made a huge difference. The reality is that the current second grade cohort at Walcott is not your regular cohort. I'm an administrator. I've been a teacher and an administrator for over 20 years. We have multiple children, but we know this cohort is different. And we, like all cohorts, is made up of smart, creative, and wonderful children. Nevertheless, we suspect it has an overrepresentation of students with an IEP or a 504. Though we do not have the exact percentage of students who need accommodations, and we're not requesting to be told this, we want to respect the privacy. We do ask the board to inquire the district about these numbers. We suspect that it is a much higher percentage than the average in the country or the state, which is roughly 13%. Also, we respectfully ask you to inquire about the number of referrals and behavior reports gathered last year in comparison to this year. As parents, we have shared horror stories of things that happened to our children during the 15-16 school year. Their comments, their fears, and their tears, it's something that will stay with us forever, and we pray every day that it does not stay with them forever. Our love for our children moves us to do everything in our power to avoid putting our children through that again. Thus, we request to please assigned 4 teachers and not 3 to teach next year's 3rd grade at Walcott. We will be following up with you during the months of June, July, and August. And I don't know if I have any time left. If I do, right, okay, I don't.
You don't.
So I just wanted to say, as you know, I'm moving on. I put in my resignation, and I'll be finishing my PhD in multicultural, multilingual studies at UConn, teaching at University of St. Joseph in that in the field of education. And I simply want to thank you. I take advantage to thank you for the opportunity to have served this district as a world language supervisor. You have definitely been a role model to follow, and it has been my absolute honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as I mentioned, if there are other people who would like to speak, I'm going to take the chair's prerogative and ask you to speak at the end of the meeting, and there will be more time to do that for any other further public comments. We want to move on now quickly to the Equity and Excellence Report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I bet you didn't know that they were here.
Yeah, if any parents want to take pictures, come on up behind here. They always want to, and they're so afraid to come up, so just come on up.
Good evening. Thank you. And thank you, Norfeld, for your patience. And you guys were great. So they're going to help me with this part of the presentation. Each year, we are pleased to bring you this presentation that showcases equity and excellence within the West Hartford Public Schools. And since the initiation of the Equity and Diversity Council, the EDC, last year, it was decided that we would end the year with a showcase that would illustrate the EDC's, one of the EDC's 5 priorities. So this year's Equity and Excellence presentation will highlight a priority number 3 of the EDC. So throughout the year, our educators have engaged in learning experiences that focus on building our cultural competency. Tonight, you will see 3 short presentations from the elementary, middle, and high school students and staff that reflect the commitment of our elementary, middle, and high school students and our staff and the outcomes of our students as engaged leaders, social justice advocates through their cross-peer collaborations. So it's cross-age peer collaborations, and we'll get this going. Bear with me 1 second. Yep. We got it? All righty.
Here at Norfolk School, recess is a lot of fun. Bubbles float, students skip, balls bounce, and games of catch connect us with other kids. Norfolk Playground is a sea of noisy, active children. We don't want anyone to be left out. But sometimes kids do feel left out. So we decided to do something about it. Maybe you've heard of Unified Theater or Unified Sports. These programs connect athletes and actors with students that have special needs. This inspired us to make a whole new great program right here at Norfolk School. We introduce to you Unified Recess! Right now, this organized program is for 2nd and 3rd graders. Maybe it'll grow even bigger. It's great! Awesome! meaningful,
and something that we really look forward to.
We love being sidekicks to our new friends. As sidekicks, we accompany them on great new adventures. According to the Special Olympics, playing together is a quick path to friendship and understanding.
And recess is the perfect time to connect with others.
It's a time that we can play, talk, do an activity,
and laugh together.
We learn about our differences, but we focus on our strengths. Sometimes our differences are big, and sometimes they're small, but we still form great friendships.
We want to make sure that everyone feels that they belong in our community.
Here at Norfolk, Unified Recess started small, but it's already grown to over 60 second and third graders. Unified Recess has some pretty awesome benefits.
1, you make someone happy.
2, you learn about someone else. And 3, you get to be proud of yourself. Some of us are becoming better writers because of Unified Recess.
Some of us are getting good at creating new crafts.
As sidekicks, we love to make plans. We listen to our buddies' interests and plan activities. Doing this helps us become friends with those who need a little extra attention.
A little training goes a long way towards participation and connection.
Money helps too. We can use money to buy recess toys that are specific to Unified Recess. We've been practicing mindfulness, and we even started a fundraiser.
We're selling mindful bracelet kits.
They're $1 each. We love them and think you would too. Helping people is contagious.
Help us help others.
Thank you for supporting Unified Recess.
Really great. And you'll see that they came out in great mass this evening to support each other, and it's just a sign of how unified and inclusive they are. So I have my sidekicks with me, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to our Unified Recess advocates. So Joey, are you starting now? You'll press the button.
My name is Joey, and my favorite part of Unified Recess is playing Angry Bird Tag. It's not funny.
Joey, who do you play with?
I play with Jordan Jeffrey. I got mixed up.
Yeah, right?
Let me start all over again.
Who do you play with?
I play with Jordan, Jake, Jeffrey, Jake, Jordan, Alex. They tried to catch me, but I'm too fast for them.
Hello, my name is Connor, and every Tuesday I play with Quaid. But this one Tuesday was nothing like the others. After lunch, I found Quaid, then gave him the dinosaur that I always bring for him. He smiled, and that's when I knew we would have a great day. Quaid went on the swings first. I pushed him and asked him if he wanted to go higher. He said, "Oh yeah." That made me so happy to see him communicating with me, so I pushed him higher. Then he said, "Off." So I stopped the swing for him, and he jumped off. That began a busy time for us on the playground. After a while, the whistle blew, and we had to run all the way across the sea of monsters, the blacktop. Quaid handed me the dinosaur, and I said, "Bye, Quaid," and you won't believe this. He said, "Bye, Connor," without me even asking. That made me feel so awesome because it showed me he actually cared about me, and it was even better because he used to never really talk. He always just listened. That's my favorite memory of Unified Recess.
My daughter could be the poster child for Unified Recess, or one of the poster children for Unified Recess. She's a student with multiple disabilities who's not able to move, speak, or see very well. She's never been able to invite children to play, to join a group, or to participate independently in any recess activities. Unified Recess changed the experience of recess for her from one of unpleasantness bordering on misery to one of tremendous joy and fun. Now, children play with her. They help her to get around. They help her to understand what recess is all about. Now she loves recess, and she was in the video up there enjoying herself. This is the first time that she's socially interacting with children outside of the classroom, and she loves it. And the children who play with her tell me that they love it too. This is what Unified Recess is all about, fun for everyone. There's absolutely nothing better than that.
Hi, I'm Jamie Kaminsky, and I sit here as the art teacher at Norfell Elementary School, but personally as the mother of an 8-year-old boy, Quaid, who has autism and participates in Unified Recess at Norfell. As a mother, my heart bursts to know that his engagement is considered throughout the entire school day, not just during times of academic rigor. His emotional and social health as his mom will always remain at the forefront of my concern. To know that my little guy has the opportunity to be understood and loved by his typically developing peers, and in return love them, is unmeasurable. As his mom, experiences like these serve as the compass for Quaid's growth. While I hope to report that he can count to 100 next year and read when he is 10, his ability to engage with another will design and decide his destination. For this program, I'm eternally grateful. Now, press your thing.
I like recess.
I said I like recess.
My name is EJ Greenspan, and I've been asked to speak about the impact Unified Recess has had on my daughter, Eva, a student in Mrs. Campagna's 3rd grade class. It's a wild understatement to say that Unified Recess has been the highlight of Eva's year. She has experienced the excitement of the initial idea and has been focused and driven in her efforts to promote it. Together with her classmates, Eva has connected to Norfeld's mindfulness mission in making mindfulness bracelets and kits to fund Unified Recess, effectively creating and running a profitable Unified Recess business. In doing so, she has experienced the work, dedication, time, and drive involved in making Unified Recess a success. Through Unified Recess, Eva has learned the life lessons of compassion, community, ingenuity, and industriousness. The experience of creating and growing Unified Recess has brought my daughter pride, joy, and gratification. As a parent, I believe this is education at its best, and I'm grateful to Mrs. Campagna for helping our children through this amazing experience.
Children are naturally inclined to reach out and connect to others. Sometimes we just need to follow their lead. I'm Lori Campagna, and I'm fortunate to share my days with curious, creative 3rd graders. As educators, we know little of what the future holds for our students. But one thing we are certain of, their future will include everyone. This initiative brings 96 children together. The connections happen on the playground and spill over to the classrooms, corridors, and cafeteria of our school. One student is learning to push a swing just high enough, and another, the importance of showing up when you said you would. In return, trust is earned, reaping benefits of smiles, giggles, or a spoken word that replaces silence. Together, through these experiences, we are all lifted up. Together, we reach our greatest potential. To the Board of Education and the viewing public, we are grateful for the invitation to share Unified Recess with you. Being here now gives us the opportunity to invite other schools to follow the lead of their students and spread compassion through play. Thank you.
So now we'd like to open the floor for questions and comments from you all. We hope that you've enjoyed hearing about this brand new program that promotes inclusion and how well in the leadership of our youngsters and how they're promoting kindness and inclusion.
Well, first, let me say thank you so much. You guys are awesome. That was a great presentation. The idea of compassion through play, I hope it does catch on throughout the district. I know I do it in different ways throughout the district, but I'll start us off with a question. I'm just wondering about how it's organized. Is it different classes do it, or the students run it, or who gets everyone outside or inside and
Leah, go ahead.
together?
So students play with kids with special needs one day a week, and we play with them that day every week, and we organize like the buddies together so they have their shortened buddies, and at lunchtime people announce the buddies so that they know who they're with.
So you guys might be surprised at this, but I'm a Nordfeld dad too. And I got to tell you, I'm super impressed, and I always have been with you guys. You guys have always done the right thing. And I know recess can be somewhat challenging and sometimes scary. And what you guys are doing, it makes my heart melt, and it's great stuff. And you guys should be very proud of yourselves, and you're leading the way. And I hope that we can encourage this unified recess throughout the district and even go farther than that. So I applaud you for that, and I'm very proud of you.
I would just like to echo what Mark said. I feel very proud, and I thank you all for coming before us this evening and giving us a shot of what you're doing. This is awesome. I mean, you're teaching each other, but more importantly, you're teaching us as adults, and you're certainly clearing the path. You are a living example of the mission of this district, and I would just encourage you to keep going and to spread it into other areas. You're young students now, but you're going to advance, and I would encourage you, just as you're doing it now, genuinely continue this as you move forward in grade and as you move forward in age and become adults. I'm very proud of not only you as students, but your teachers and your parents. I thank you all.
This made me so happy. I've been in West Hartford. I've gone through the West Hartford Public Schools, and I truly think this is why people choose to come to West Hartford, is because we have such amazing things like this. In middle school, we have unified theater. In high school, we have unified theater, but I never really knew that we had something for elementary school, and I really hope that this goes to all the elementary schools throughout the district, because this is awesome. It's really, really awesome, and you guys should be so proud of yourselves, because although this should be something that should be the norm, it most of the time isn't. So you guys are really paving the way, and it's great.
I just want to echo what everyone else has said. I am so touched by your presentation. It's such a beautiful thing to see, and it's a model. It reminds us of kindness and inclusivity and how everyone wants to belong, which is your motto. And I hope this is second and third grade, that it will continue to be pushed up fourth and fifth grade. And by the time you're in middle school and high school, I bet everyone will be included, or at least considered. And I love the bracelets, and I'm wondering how we can go about getting some of those bracelets, because I'd love to wear one and make a contribution for this, for the Unified, for your cause. Thank you so much for your presentation. Please continue it, and I hope it spreads throughout the school district and beyond, just like Unified Theater. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your remarks and your questions. You're in luck this evening. Oh, one more.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say that I'm a grown-up on the Board of Ed, and we like to think that as grown-ups we can make a difference in the lives of young school children. But I have to say that I think you have changed our lives by what you did, and it would never have occurred to me to do this, and yet you guys are doing it. No one had to tell you how to do it. You figured it out. You organize it yourselves. I really feel like I've learned a lot tonight, just about generosity and compassion, and I'm just really, really impressed with you guys.
And I'd also like to thank you. One of the things that I've really appreciated tonight, in addition to you being here, was the video that you showed us. That really showed me how the program works. You guys are great teachers. That's awesome. So thank you so much. I hope you can use that video to show other schools how to pull off a successful program like this. Thanks.
The video is on YouTube, and it's already gone viral. So we hope that this will continue to spread goodness and kindness. And so you're in luck. They have bracelets for you as a thank you. So as we transition, they'll give you your bracelets, and we'll applaud them one more time. Thank you. Thank you, Team Norfeld.
I just want to say how impressed I was of the kids prior to this. So
They have learned more about sleep studies than they anticipated.
this is cool. I like my colors too. What colors you got? Let's see your color. No, I'm not trading. I'm not trading. Nope, I like mine. Let me see. Hold on, I gotta look. What's Mark got? I might trade. Oh, I like it. I like trading. I'll give it to my daughter at Norfeld. Yeah, come on. Go right around. Yeah, go get the gavel from him. Tell him to get out. No, that's not right. You gotta do something with the button. You know why? Because they did a loop.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Ready?
Welcome back. Ready?
All right. So we're gonna progress through the grades. We don't have a video to break up the. We don't have any gifts either. Any more gifts? But they're fully awake and ready. All right, so recently, I'll begin. Recently, the board, you all in the viewing public had the opportunity to hear about a program, the Web Crew, where everyone belongs, and it's the middle school program for Bristol, Sedgwick, and King Philip, and it's designed to enhance the elementary to middle school transition for students. So tonight, look at that door, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Tonight, you'll have the opportunity to hear from the members, the club members of Be Unique. And Be Unique, it's a program in place designed to make sure that everyone just feels a sense of belonging within the middle school. And it is a unique program to Bristol Middle School, coincidentally. So I'm going to hear from our unique club members joining me this evening. Can I get started? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Julie Schwartz, the school nurse at Bristow, and I helped start this club 2 years ago, and I run it. This is going to be a hard act to follow, Norfeld, so we're not as fancy as they were. But I have with me 3 of our members, and I have Emma, Sarah, and Bailey. And I asked them before what they thought about the early start time, because they're all exiting 8th graders, and they are all for it, if that makes a difference. So anyway, I think Sarah's going to be our lead speaker, and she's got some information for you.
Good evening, Board of Ed members. Thank you for inviting us to share about our club with you. My name is Sarah Burnett, and I'm an 8th grader at Bristow Middle School. The Be Unique Club was formed because we wanted all students to be able to belong to a group where they felt comfortable being themselves. Bristow has students of all different races, cultures, socioeconomic statuses, sexual orientations, physical abilities, and religious beliefs. The club's mission is to bring our uniqueness together where we can educate one another about our differences and similarities while having fun doing it. We have been busy with activities throughout the past 2 years. Many of our activities focus on celebrating and embracing diversity. We celebrated Human Rights Day by performing a Rosa Parks play in front of all the students and afterwards engaged in a discussion about segregation. We celebrated Black History Month with a bulletin board display highlighting famous African American people who have contributed greatly to our nation. We recognized the United Nations Day of Tolerance by educating Bristow students about its mission. We encouraged Bristow to wear all blue to show support, and we handed out colorful bracelets to those who participated. During Autism Awareness Month, we decorated puzzle piece pins and handed them out to all the students. We celebrated Down Syndrome Awareness Day by making announcements and posters encouraging the students to wear crazy socks. We had advisors show a video of how people with Down syndrome are just like you and me. Other fun things we have done was make fried ice cream in honor of Cinco de Mayo, which we came to find out is only celebrated in the United States. We made holiday cards for the Hughes Nursing Home, which is across the street from Bristow, and brought the cards to the residents ourselves. We have really enjoyed being a part of the Be Unique Club. Not only have we learned a great deal about coexisting in our world, but we've had a lot of fun being together. Thank you.
And we're open to questions if you have any.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm a Bristow dad, so I'm very happy to see you guys here today. Nice move. There's my daughter up there. I appreciate that. Thank you. And boy, my daughter's in 8th grade, and Emma, I've known you since pre-K. Just thinking back over the years and all the work I've been able to do with the different parents. Julie and I worked on Tools for Schools together, and Dr. Morrow and Mr. Cook, principals here, and Jackie Colon. I've known you for a long time. Bristow is a unique family where we all work together. And the activities that you're doing together here to bring that family even closer is very commendable. Thank you for all the good work you've done here. As you move on to high school, I hope you continue that. It's going to be your first year, and you can take the lessons you've learned here and bring them to the kids at the new school. So, thank you.
I was thinking when I saw the younger kids that it's easy, in a way, for younger kids to do this because they don't know they're not supposed to, if you see what I mean. But and I had noted this down when I read about it, that I'm really struck that you guys are doing something at a very challenging time when there's a lot of pressure to not be different or to be mean to somebody who's different or to exclude them, and that you're really facing it head on and doing something. And I think that it's so hard to do, and it's so impressive that you're doing it. And I think it's really, really important, not just for you guys, but for the kids who don't even know that it's okay to be different. And now you're making it okay for them. And I think it's a gift to everybody at the school. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Well, I want to thank you. I also, when I read the material and just listening to you all now, I'm very impressed. Not only impressed because West Hartford is a great district, but every time you as students come before us and you express the things that you're doing, it just solidifies that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do right, because you all are living examples. I was very impressed with you as youth to shed the light on a number of the segregation issues. You talk about Black history, but not only you do that, you make it inclusive for others. A lot of people haven't experienced what a number of people have during that period. And I think you're very brave and you're commendable to want to be able to shed some light among your peers in this particular area. I would hope, as you advance in age, like I said to the other group, a number of times when students advance, they lose some of this and they're more reclusive, or they retract into themselves, or they group with other kids. I would encourage you, the same way that you have this passion today and during your Bristol years to continue to shed that light as you advance, because what you're doing is very commendable. You may not realize it as much, but as you get older and as you engage with others, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So I want to congratulate you on this particular topic that you've chosen to shed the light on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You cover so many different areas of inclusiveness that you are open to most areas of inclusiveness and allowing people just to be who they are. And one of the questions I have is about the club. How many people are in the club, and how does it function? What, you know, how does it look as a structure? Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
We have about 10 people in the club, and we have meetings once a month, but we also come some days during lunch and learning lab. And we plan out, like, we make posters and we make announcements to the school about what we're celebrating, kind of.
And then as you're doing your different activities, thank you for that. And as you're doing your different activities, it's open to people throughout the school, or you set up assemblies or programs after school, or is it during the day?
We have the meeting once a month after school, but we also have meetings during school.
Thank you so much.
You guys are really the agents of change. You know, you can go back, I don't want to bore you too much in history, but like you could even go back to some industrial cities in the 1940s and the 50s, and cities were separated by ethnic groups, you know, and that's all have changed. That's changed now too. And you guys are changing it here as well. And, you know, society changes very slowly, but you guys, I've seen this over the, you know, even the 10 years that my kids have been in school, I have seen the inclusion, the acceptance. Just for example, if, you know, 40 years ago, if you saw a wheelchair in a classroom, people would probably stare. Now it's commonplace and it's totally accepted. And it just, when I say the agent of change, it's inspiring that everything that you guys do moves the needle that much further forward. And it just generates acceptance everywhere. And it's great to see that you guys are taking the lead on this. And I'm, again, as I said earlier, I'm proud of you guys for doing such.
Listen, I remember middle school. It wasn't that far away for me. I was definitely, I definitely would have been at benefit from this club. I mean, I was definitely that kid who I wasn't always like everybody else. Like, I mean, I was a little different, it's sort of cliche, but I think that I was able to be more myself in high school because there were other people who were more themselves, and it sort of inspired me to do so. And to have something like this in middle school where a lot of people don't really want to be themselves, they sort of want to fit in, they want to do everything like everyone else does, this would have been really inspiring, and I think it actually probably would have helped me maybe be more accepting of myself at an earlier stage in my life. So it was definitely, this is awesome.
Great, thank you much. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Be Unique. And I want to give a nod to their leader, the person who inspires and influences their work, Ms. Schwartz. So thank you, and thank you for being such great social justice advocates and coming here this evening to present for us. We look forward to more and wish you continued success. Thank you. So they're leaving you with a gift of kindness. And Sarah, the earlier group, left you. You get two?
She gets two for being late? What is this?
The accepting.
I'm a student athlete.
All right, so we're coming up to your grade level, Sarah and Hugo. You know, high school is a very busy time for our students and as teenagers. And they're generally always trying to balance academics, extracurricular, outside commitments, priorities. And so sometimes it seems like it's easy and understandably easy for them to just get caught up in themselves. But our teenagers here at Hall and Connor, they don't. They care about each other. They take the time to think about each other, and they remember what it was like. Tom Moore and I had the opportunity, as we do every year, to go out to the high schools and meet with the graduating seniors and have them reflect on their years of experience, K through 12 here in West Hartford. And so a lot of times they're always talking about ways, remembering when they were in elementary school or middle school when it was a time of complex challenge and change, as you all have pointed out. So this evening, we're going to conclude this evening with kind of a two-parter, and it's, again, following our theme and our EDC priority on student leadership and engagement, and just really helping students to reach their full potential. So I'm going to bring up our first high school group, cast of characters. Are you still there? We're bringing science up first. We've got the art and science of student engagement and leadership. So we're going to bring up the science crew. Yeah, they can come on up and sit with the video.
This song is for those.
Bear with me. I know. I'm the MC. All right. Can you see my mouse? Okay. Bear with me. I'm going to have you all talk about your program while I get this queued up. Every time we stop, it sleeps. So, yeah, so I'm going to bring Keely Connery, Connor High School science teacher Keely Connery up to say a few words, and then they're going to share their remarks about why they're here this evening, and I'll get this video queued up.
First, Hugo is it's been amazing to watch him grow from middle school. I'd heard about him from my daughter, Michaela, and his leadership at Unified Theater. So to see him now, I have him as an AP Physics student, and he also does Unified Theater, and it's amazing to see you up here. Quite proud of him. These kids are remarkable because I don't even have them as students right now. I teach conceptual physics, and it's a semester course at Conard. And we have a partnership with well, these guys were there for Charter Oak. We're going to focus on our Charter Oak Conard partnership. And but I do it this semester with Walcott. So we just went to Walcott because we're focused on Charter Oak. I asked these guys if they would come and tell about their Newton's Laws children's book project. So I'm going to just introduce them, and I'm going to let them explain to you what we did. I first have Kat Rivera. Kat's a senior, and she's going to talk to you about what we did in the classroom before we went to Charter Oak. And then I have Jaden Devonish, and Jaden is going to tell you about what we did once we went to Charter Oak. And then Chris Lowe is going to tell you sort of about the relationships the kids developed and the amazing mentors that they were for the kids. So, Kat, we can start with you.
Alrighty, hi. So we first started off learning about Newton's laws, and then when we finally got a good handle on them, Miss Connery came up with the wonderful idea of pairing up with Charter Oak and one of their third grade classes to teach them about Newton's laws, but instead of like making it so complicated, we made it into children's books. So she paired us up with Miss Jim Mateo's class, which was my fifth grade teacher at Charter Oak, which her name was Miss Guara back then, but I was pretty excited to see her again. So we first started off she got a list of the students, and and next to the names of the students, they had what the students liked, like if they like baking or if like watching movies and stuff like that. And then she had us partner up with someone else in our physics class, and we both chose either 2 to 3 children, depending on who didn't have one, who did. And then from there on, we grabbed our topics and we started molding together Newton's laws with what they like to do. And then sooner or later, some of our students didn't know how to pronounce their names, so we had Ms. Jim Mateo send us a video to see our students and also how to pronounce their names, which was pretty cool seeing them. And then afterwards, we did rough drafts on note cards about our books, and then afterwards we put them on PowerPoint, and we had our classmates peer edit our PowerPoint so that we don't have any mistakes on them. And then we transformed that into a movie, which then Ms. Connery helped us transition the PowerPoint to a movie. And then we later shared that with Ms. Jim Mateo's class, and we went over to Charter Oak, and it was just wonderful showing them our stories and just sharing them. And my book was about, I had a little boy and 2 girls, and one of them liked soccer, the other one liked baking, and another one watched movies. So I did my book on Conard versus Hall game, and they went on an adventure, then they went home, they had a sleepover, and then they baked together, because that's what they all like doing. And I don't know if it's up, but I have a short clip of my book, so you guys can see a little bit of what I did. With Jamie, Lassie, and Liam, You Never Know What's Coming Next, by Catherine Rivera and Delaney Maldonado. It was the big Conard versus Hall soccer game. The sun was shining and people could feel the warm. With Jamie, Lassie, and Liam, You Never Know What's Coming Next, by Catherine Rivera and Delaney Maldonado. It was the big Conard versus Hall soccer game. The sun was shining and people could feel the warm air brush their happy faces. Students, parents, friends, and loved ones are cheering on their favorite soccer player. Cheerleaders were cartwheeling, flipping, hollering, and getting tossed in the air. On the opposite side of the field, the hall of parents and students were cheering. The crowd was getting pumped. Their eyes followed Conard's soccer player Jamie as she runs across the field with the ball. Within the huge crowd of Conard supporters, Liam and Lassie were holding a huge painted sign that reads, "Go Jamie." Lassie was screaming at the top of her lungs, "Get the ball! Score! Go Jamie, you got this! Do it for the team!" Jamie was excited and she could hear her friends Liam and Lassie screaming her name. All of a sudden, Jamie looks down and sees the soccer ball right at her feet. She stood there stunned, staring at the ball. The other players on the field yelled, "Jamie, run! Go toward the goal!" Jamie slowly began to kick the ball. She starts off jogging, then ends up sprinting toward the goal. The more she kicked the ball, the more it sped up, and so did she.
Acceleration. How an object slows down, speeds up, or changes direction. In the story, Jamie and the ball are accelerating. As Jamie kicks the ball slowly, it speeds up, and so does she. The harder she kicks the ball, the more the ball accelerates.
So as you can see at the bottom, we also included an explanation of what law was being used, so it was better for them to understand. And as well as we developed the book, we had other students in the class. We used their voices to make our book more interesting, so it was pretty fun. But I'm gonna move it on to Jaden so he can tell you guys about his book, and as well as Chris.
Good afternoon. I wrote for 2 kids who like cooking and basketball. So we taught them about Newton's laws through a Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors game. And they went to the concession stand where they watched the people that were worked there cook their food. What we did at Charter Oak. We met the students we wrote the book for, then we turned off the sound and had our students read the book to us. Then, after that, we went to a room where we set up our stations that would teach them about Newton's laws of motion. Chris and I were at an air hockey puck station where we taught Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion will stay in motion until acted upon by an unbalanced force. We also had soccer balls and bowling balls and mallets to explain the second law. We had constant velocity cars and accelerating cars to show constant speed and acceleration. Kat, what was your station about?
All right, so my station was on the third law, so it's whatever you push, it'll push back with the same force. So how we showed this and made it easier for the students to understand, we had like a fishing line attached to like 2 poles, and then we had a balloon attached to a straw. So what I had, my partner at the station was Sebi Suarez. So what he did was he blew up the balloon, and then he released it. So as the balloon pushed, the air pushed it back with the same force. So it's pretty interesting watching them and having them explain in their minds what the law was and trying to figure it out.
I wrote a book for 3 elementary kids who liked Christmas, dancing, and cooking. We wrote a book called Aiden, Amaya, and Jing's Christmas Disaster. It's basically because it has all the laws, since one likes dancing, one likes cooking, and then setting up a Christmas tree. I did the station with Jaden, how the puck would move if we put a force on it. We had lunch with the kids, and we also had recess with them. It was fun for us because we don't get recess like that. We just get lunch, and I mean, we could go outside and have our own fun during that lunch period, but it's not like a recess kind of period. The kids loved playing with us. They were really excited with that. We told them how they were excited how high school was about. Well, high school was about. They wanted our autographs, which was pretty sweet, and the most memorable thing for me was the kids didn't want us to leave. They were holding us, they were crying, they were just holding and crying to us, not wanting us to leave after we gave our autographs. That's it.
This song is for those who inspire us today, who always lend a helping hand to help show us the way. This song is for those who see their students through the tough times in their lives. For that we say thank you. You have made a difference. You have shaped our minds. You have changed the world, one child at a time. You have always been there in everything you do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I am proud of you. This song is for those who heard the silent cries, who stepped in to wipe the tears from the children's eyes. For those who gave us a safe place to grow, a place for us to call our home. Forever we will know that you have made a difference. You have shaped our minds. You have changed the world, one child at a time. You have always been there in everything you do. I hope that you're as proud of me as I am proud of you.
We're very proud of you. Thank you. Open the floor for your questions.
I have a quick question because it's obvious that you put a lot of time and effort into this project. Can you tell me what was the time frame from beginning to end? I know it was Mrs. Connery's idea, but after that, I'm sure she let you all run with it. So can you just elaborate a little on that for me?
We had a couple of So we chunked things down. So I think the first week we focused more on like our note cards and having everything together and having us organize how the book's gonna go. And then the next week we had a whole week in the library, just typing up our books, putting in all of the artwork, all the audio. And then we had like 2 or 3 days for peer editing, and then she also helped us with that. And then a week after, she helped us put the book together into a video. So probably about like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, depending.
And just my last comment, I just want to, again, thank you. I'm so proud of you all. You have no idea that it's very emotional sitting up here listening to the 3 different presentations from the middle school, the elementary school, and now to cap off with you all. You are just fantastic, and as you as seniors are wrapping up, I know that you're just going to be awesome into the next, at the next level. So again, thank you.
I just want to say thank you. It's so unique and a lot of fun. It's informational. I'm sure you're an inspiration to those youngsters, and it's something they will carry with them. It's amazing when you have an impact on someone. You probably don't even necessarily realize how much. I guess when they ask for an autograph, you realize how much. But I think that that's pretty special, and I just love all the different types of learning and modalities that kind of go together to produce this. And it's just so clever. I really, really appreciate it. It's just another wonderful thing we're showing that's happening here in our schools. So thank you so much.
I just want to say that you have exhibited another kind of diversity that we really don't talk about, which is age. And I just want to second what Tammy said. When you said that they asked for your autographs, that's what really got me. I thought you have really reached out to a group that was probably totally intimidated by you and just sort of thinks that the whole thing is scary, and you made it real, and I just think it was tremendous. I mean, that you really opened up for them what life for them is going to be like in the future, and at the same time, you were able to see what your contributions meant to somebody else. So I just think, again, it's an example of ways in which you guys and the school system in general thinks about relationships in this different way and builds these kinds of cross relationships. So I hope you also found it rewarding, but just watching it, you could see how they would find it rewarding too. So thanks.
Hey, I'm just curious if any of you had prior experience working with younger kids, and once you've done it, any thought about maybe coming back as a teacher after college?
I mean, becoming a teacher, I love working with kids, but I feel like it's a lot of work. I mean, well, yeah, it is, but I rather just more like be like a babysitter instead of trying to teach kids, having to go through the difficult parts of teaching a kid. Yeah, you'd feel accomplished when you teach a kid something. It was like accomplishing teaching. It felt like an accomplishment teaching the kids about the laws, and it kind of made our day for everyone. Especially when you were talking about the autographs, kind of made me feel like, made me wish I had a brother or a sister that I never had. So it kind of put a smile on all of our faces.
Well, I am a aunt of 4, so I am in love with children. I do want to keep working with children. My goal is to become a pediatrician, because ever since I was little, I want to deal something with the medical field. But I've seen that I'm really good with children. I have a 2-year-old, I think a 6-year-old, like a 5-year-old, and like a 4-year-old, and they are just amazing. And just working with children is just awesome. Just seeing how quick they can absorb something and just learn it just intrigues me so much. And like, I can't wait to reach my goal and become a pediatrician, because I love it. I just love children.
It must be so cool having you for an aunt. So I'm sure those students will always remember this in years from now when Tom Moore and I go to meet with them as seniors. They'll remember this. I remember you when you were in middle school, so it was hard for me to sit here and not well up with tears, but I'm just so proud of you and the positive influence and the legacy that you'll leave behind. So thank you so much. Shall we bring up your cast of characters? Yeah, okay.
Thank you all.
So, you know, there's a science, but there's an art and a science to engaging your peers, to engaging younger students. And so we're bringing up Corinne Kravitz. She's the theater arts teacher at Conard High School, and she's got a cast with her. I just want to, and they were actually highlighted in the newspaper. I just want to caution you that when you ask them questions, they are going to remain in character. They haven't broken character all evening, even through the late start time conversations, and even me asking them if they were comfortable. So I'll let you have it.
Thanks for inviting us. As you can see, we have a bunch of interesting characters with us tonight. The SPS Advanced Acting student classes each year have a fictional character day where they research a fictional character, and then they have to create a costume, they have to create an environment, and then they have to live in that environment all day long. So it's quite a challenge. The special thing this year is that we had the fourth graders from Charter Oak come up, and that was pretty exciting. So I'm going to let this group of people introduce themselves, and then they'll tell you a little bit about their day.
I'm Persephone. I'm a Greek goddess, and we talked about all the stories that I have lived, and it's very exciting.
I'm Pippi Longstocking, and I had so much fun with the kids because they're my age too, so we had a lot of adventures, and they helped me with a lot of thing finding. It was really fun.
Willy Wonka, nice to meet you. And I gave the kids candy. I mean, who doesn't like candy? But I mean, kids always want candy. But kind of regret my decision.
Hi, my name is Princess Tiana. I showed them my new restaurant, and then I made some recipes with them. They helped me make some more recipes, so it was a great time.
Hi, my name is Esmeralda, and I had the opportunity to read the kids' palms.
Hi, I'm Christopher Robin. I sat the kids down and we all had a tea party and I talked about my adventures in the woods, and I had 4 of my best friends there.
So a couple of you are going to talk a little bit more about the fourth grade visit?
Yes. Okay, so a while back, the 4th graders from Charter Oak came and they visited us, visited me, in my palace. My restaurant is called Tiana's Palace because I'm a princess, as you can see. It was a wonderful time. They had told me about, they gotten a tour around Conard's theater production. They saw the creation of Cinderella the musical. They saw the set, how it was built, and it was just a great time. They were so indulged in it. It was so encouraging to watch them. They had so many questions, and it was just a great time.
Yeah, and they came to visit me at the Villa Coola, and it was really fun, and we helped paint my wall, and we played so many games, and then I told them to help me with thing finding, and they brought me so many things. It was so fun. And then a few weeks later, I got so many letters at my house, and they were all from the people that visited me, and so I wrote them back, and it was really cool, and they wanted to become pen pals, but unfortunately I couldn't because I'm going away soon, but that's okay. But yeah, it was so fun, and they're so nice, and they wanted to come back and visit me again, but they can't, but that's okay.
Does anyone else want to add anything else about their experience with the 4th graders?
Like they came to me to see our mysteries we solved as me and the mystery gang have. Scoob! And I gave them some of the Scooby snacks like I'm eating here. Do you guys want any? So we showcased some mysteries and they really enjoyed it.
So if you have any questions for any of these interesting folks, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to answer them.
So I'm wondering if, since you're all from different places and times and do you get along? I mean, the different backgrounds, and do you eat different foods, and you can, yeah?
I had some very interesting conversation with Chris for Robin over here earlier. We had met a few months ago, so we were kind of like, we knew each other from before, you know, so it was kind of nice seeing each other again at the same place.
I think they're all wonderful people. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm not really a person.
We're actually all in our own roles too as Board of Education. We're not normally like this. When we come to this table, we put on different hats. So
I'm always like this.
yeah.
All right, so let's give them a hand, I think. Thank you, characters cast. Thank you, it's Kravitz and Miss Connery. And I just want to thank you for just making learning fun for our youngsters and giving them something to look forward to in high school, and for the teachers who bring out the magic in our students throughout the day. So I want to thank all of you who enrich our community, and our educators who want to leap out of bed to be with you and educate you each day. And thank you to the board, and especially our fearless leader, Tom Moore. He hates when I do this, but he's the one who is clearing the paths for us to do this great work and to bring out the best in our students. So because this was one of Dr. Nancy DePalma's favorite presentations, I feel like I should close with a quote in her honor. And it is an overused quote, but it's by Yeats, and it isn't the filling of the pail, but it's the lighting of the fire by Walter Yeats. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for making our last meeting all the more special. Okay, everyone, if you need to exit, please. Now we're moving on to other matters. Moving on to unfinished business. A recommendation that the Board of Education discuss and vote on a new employment agreement with Mr. Tom Moore to serve as superintendent of schools for a new term of 3 years from July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2020, and that Dr. Omar Velasquez, chairperson, execute the new agreement on behalf of the Board of Education. Have a motion? Second? Any comments or discussion?
I would just like to say something, which is that we had actually a more difficult conversation than we usually have about the superintendent's contract, because we all agreed unanimously that he really, once again, did an extraordinary job. And he asked for no raise. And I just want to say that publicly. We really debated giving him a raise anyway, because we were so moved by how much he had done this time, and ultimately we agreed with him that in a time of difficult budgets, it was hard, but it was noble to lead by example, and so we accepted it. But I just wanted to say to you personally that it was not an easy decision to decide not to give you a raise, because we're really so impressed with what you've done.
Yeah, Tom, we debated a lot of things, and I got to tell you, I mean, I've evaluated many people in the private sector, in the military, and this was one of the easiest ones because of the job you do. But more importantly, you stepping up as a leader for this town and for your teachers and for the school system by not asking for a raise is more impressive than you can imagine. It's, there was an article in the paper not too long ago, front page, bottom right, talking about how the state is in despair, and how the towns were going out, and superintendents specifically were getting raises throughout the state. In fact, I think it was after we had met. And, so it was very poignant, and, it just shows the dedication that you have. And, it's a good example of, it's not always about the money. It's about the kids, the teachers, the school system. And I applaud you for that, because it takes a true leader and a true believer in what they do for that to happen. And, we spoke previously, and I just want to tell you, you know, I'm proud to be part of this Board of Ed. But more importantly, I'm proud to know you and the work you're doing, so thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yes, we do. All those in favor of supporting a new employment agreement with Mr. Tom Moore to serve as superintendent of schools for his new term of 3 years from July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2020, and that I, Dr. Romero Velasquez, chairperson, execute the new agreement on behalf of the Board of Education, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Moore. Now we can move on. New business. Motion by Tammy X, Michelle Greenberg, and Mark Zadanowicz to approve reviewed policies for 4050, 4120, 4240, and 6240. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the following policies, which were reviewed by the Board Policy Subcommittee. Again, those are 3 personnel regs and 1 on instruction. This is the first and only reading, correct? Okay, I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Discussion?
These only have 1 reading because they're very straightforward. The first one on personnel assignment, we didn't change at all. We thought it was just fine. The second on personnel records, again, we didn't change. It says they should be made available, and they are. The third, there's one I thought we changed 1 word from oh, it was the second one, I'm sorry.
Just the human resources was the only change.
What is up with this? Anyway, it was just a clarification. The third one, again, no change. And the fourth one on extracurricular activities just puts into writing what's been an ongoing policy all along, which is obviously that extracurricular activities of the West Hartford Public Schools are available to students who are enrolled in the West Hartford Public Schools. It's fairly self-evident and obvious, but we just wanted to put it on paper. So there was nothing significant or change, so it's just a 1 reading proposal.
Fair enough, thanks again. All those in favor of approving the policies that were reviewed by the Board Policy Subcommittee, 4050, 4120, 4240, and 6240, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Moving on. Superintendent's report.
Okay. This is, 3 weeks ago at his personnel report, Rick Ledwith promised you that we'd have an announcement for the Wolcott principal. And I've told a lot of people this year, I've gotten out of the promising game this year because it seems like every time I make a promise, something happens. But we actually can follow through tonight after a very rigorous process with a unbelievably qualified group of candidates that we were able to bring forward, actually 2 days of initial interviews instead of 1, just because of the pure numbers. And then moving forward from there with performance tasks in front of parents from Wolcott and from teachers from Wolcott, and then an interview with the executive team, and then a separate interview with just myself to close off. I am very happy to report that tonight I am appointing Mr. Scott Dunn as the new principal of Wolcott Elementary School. Scott is currently principal at Spalding Elementary School in Suffield, Connecticut, where he served since 2013. Prior to that, he worked in Sunbury Public Schools as an assistant principal at both elementary and the high school, as well as World Language Department chairperson. He began his career teaching at Litchfield High School, all levels of Spanish. We believe Scott is a great fit. Talking to people that have known Scott through the years, the one thing that comes through clearly is nobody will be at the building more than he will. And that's exemplified today when Rick and I introduced him to the Wolcott staff at 3:30. So at 3:45, he was still talking to a couple of people. And I looked at Rick and I said, should we wait or should we just kind of leave him here? And we decided, well, we should probably just leave him here because people will be coming up. And when I was walking in at 10 of 7, he had just gotten here from Wolcott and had been there that time talking to people, teachers, a couple parents that had come by. And he's as excited, I think, as we are to have him. I believe that Wolcott, which has had some instability, and I need to thank so many people who've been on the committee, Lynn Katz, Maureen Lantner, who both served as interim principals this year, but weren't really interim. They were members of the building, they were members of our leadership team, did tremendous work. But now we can turn the building over to somebody who's going to be there for a long time and who is as committed to building relationships, students and parents, as anybody on our staff. And I just am so excited. I think he's going to be a tremendous fit. So welcome, Scott.
Welcome.
Something I'm very happy to report, and you'll be seeing these around town, and this is something we've done in partnership. One of the things during the summer we worry about, and we talk about, can we do meals during the summer from our schools? And our schools are active during the summer, and supervision becomes a problem. But all kids, teens 18 and under, are welcome, federally funded through the USDA, at Faxon Library from 1 to 1:30, Monday through Thursday, closed Friday. Free meals, no ID necessary, just come in, and this is something that has been one of our great concerns every year, and this is something that we're very excited to announce this partnership, and you'll see these around. So Monday through Thursday at Faxon Library, 1 to 1:30, lunches will be served for kids that need a lunch. That is correct. It is closed on Fridays and July 4th, open June 26th to August 17th. So basically the whole summer, a week after we end. So very excited to be able to announce that. One of the topics that did get brought up, and this isn't in response to that, I didn't know about anything at Wolcott that hasn't been brought to me, with class sizes. Class lists will be mailed August 10th. Typically that's on August 1st date, but we're putting that notification out to parents that we're bumping it back 10 days for a couple reasons. First, the first day of school is very late. I think it's August 30th this year, just because of the way, Labor Day falls. Second thing is we are trying to make sure, as we said during the budget deliberations, whereas we didn't increase class sizes, we're adhering more closely to class size guidelines. Now, we already have a couple of places that are beyond projections. So right now we're looking at everywhere that we have classes, but we are adhering to our class size guidelines. With that being said, we need a little bit more time. We're a little bit behind where we would be in saying, okay, these are your sections, because we're waiting to get a better picture of kindergarten enrollments so that we have a better idea of where we will place teachers. So it may lead to a little more, a few more questions, but we want to make sure we staff appropriately. And, the budget, we have a saying, the budget isn't written in pencil. That being said, we're going to adhere to class size guidelines. So if we're over class size guidelines, we're going to add a section there. And if I'm, based on where we are right now, I'd say that we're going to be one teacher over class size guidelines for what it looks like right now. But we're going to try our best by the end of this week, beginning of next week, to get an accurate picture out there and let people know, okay, this is somewhere where we might be, where it looks like we might be adding a section. So hopefully by the end of June, but that puts people behind in kind of putting those classes together. So this notice will go out from all the schools. Parents will know that don't look for don't come home from vacation on August 1st waiting for something in your mail, because we won't be mailing them till August 10th. Okay, any questions about that? Yes.
Sorry. Since we are, in many cases, creeping closer to that top number of the classrooms, even if we can't provide additional teachers, are there other things that we can do? Is this the sort of thing that paras fill in, or are there other things that we can do to solve some of the larger classrooms, even if they're within guidelines?
I'd love to say yes. Honestly, if we're one teacher over, that's, we already know areas that we're over budget, and we developed a tight budget, and we don't know what the state's going to pass. We don't know when it's going to pass. So the truth is, if we go over during the year, we tend to add a para. We tend to add a TA to that class, because we've had grades where all of a sudden 4 kids move in October in the same grade. If we see a situation, which is what we know will happen, in September where we have some issues in the classroom for a variety of reasons because of student needs, well, in that case, it's incumbent upon us to add to make sure for safety. So we won't do it in the summer based on numbers because, they're close. We'll do it based on the kids that are actually there in September.
Yeah, I was just thinking, since some of the comments were not about class size per se, but class size in particular conditions where there were more kids with special needs. And I have no idea about that particular situation, but I'm saying in general, when those situations happen, we address them in some way.
Absolutely. And, just looking at our class sizes, I don't want the idea to be that class, I don't want to give false ideas to people. That's what I don't want people to think over the summer, maybe if we advocate. I will say that class level at Wolcott, for example, there are 19 sections larger than that in the district. So the notion that would be somewhere where we would see another teacher added, I honestly don't see that as a possibility. Now, if there's extra help needed in a class because of issues that are raised to students, then absolutely that would be the case. But I don't see it getting broken into sections of 15 and 16. Yeah, absolutely. But I appreciate the question. Okay. Any other questions about that? If I could have Ann come up quickly and just answer some of your questions, because I do want to give her a quick rundown. And I sent you all a description of what Ann has been doing since we gave her this charge, because we talked about this really last summer, and then during January, we had a discussion about, late start times, and this being something the board wants to investigate more of, and we agreed that doing this with the backdrop of the budget at the same time would be ineffectual, to say the least, but that we do want to, as we do in West Hartford, to make informed decisions, and that the board needs to make an informed decision about this and to get as much information as possible. So I spoke to Paul Vicinas and Ann is going to oversee this committee on late start times to spend the next periods of months going through presentations and information. I'll let her describe quickly what's happened so far and where we're headed.
Thank you. Great. Thank you for having me at the table. Right after the budget season ended, we took about a week off, and then we started right into a planning committee that is helping guide the planning to go forward. We had our first planning committee on May 9th, as you may have seen in your notes, and we're able to start with some of the nuts and bolts of how we want to go about getting input and organizing ourselves. So we are working on a timeline where the committee would receive a literature review this summer, so they could start their background reading, and we would start meetings in September. We have reached out to the PTC Council President to get names of parents to serve, and as well as the WHEA President to get teachers to serve. I've reached out personally to the administrators for some service there, as well as there'll be some other key players who need to be on the committee. We're looking at the different kinds of subcommittees or subgroups that would be investigating and getting research completed, focus groups held, surveys done. And so a lot of work has gone into the background planning at this point. Today we met again to relook at our approach and get some more input. I feel like we're in a good place to start strong in September. I have also written to the Regional Education Laboratory for the Northeast and the Islands. It's a great resource to get research on. I've asked for a lit review from them, as well as some other articles that are recent articles to share. So we plan to launch in September with a committee of approximately 24 to 28 people representing a variety of stakeholders with subcommittee groups to take deep dive looks into particular aspects of the issue and to ensure that over the course of the next several months, starting from there, we have multiple opportunities for public input, that we do the research we need, that we go on site visits to districts in Connecticut that have made the change, that we read up about districts that are not as local who have made these changes. And our real goal is to make sure that we look at every implication of any change and we inform you so that you can make an informed decision. Our goal will be to do the research and communicate implications, not to make any recommendation, but to let you make the decision based on the research.
Thanks so much for taking the time to put that together. Two questions just to get us going. One is about the timeline. So after September, you said several months. What do you think about when you will have a report back to the board? And the second, if you could tell us a little bit more about the constituency of the committee.
Yes. So we will be meeting in September and October with the first update to the board in November. We hope to then continue our work and get more direction from you where you are at that point based on your feedback, and we hope to give you a second update around February before you dive into budget season, and a final update in May, around May 15th. I have as a date next year that we would be finishing up all of our communication to you.
You said November. I just want to make sure that, because this board's going to look different after November 7th, so that you conclude with us after November 7th? Because if you did it prior to that, if we had a meeting on November 2nd, it wouldn't make any sense. So for your planning purposes.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Our tentative November meeting I was targeting was November 21. I believe it's a Wednesday, according to the calendar. So thank you for mentioning that, because that is important. There will be a different membership, but we'll give an update at that point, and then we'll receive feedback from that board at that point and get more direction as well, if there are particular things they would like us to be looking at.
And the committee constituency?
It's still forming, but we do have 6 parents who I've received names on from the PTC. I have gotten a couple of administrators who have written back that they're interested. We will be having, as I say, parents, teachers, administrators, and we are looking at some people to serve. There's a couple of people that will be key in terms of, let's say, transportation, or the town Parks and Rec who use our fields and our buildings that may not be on the committee full-time but may be called into focus groups to be key members at a focus group time. So we're still forming our committee. The core of it is the parents, teachers, administrators. I think the athletic director has to be on that committee, and a couple other key people on the full committee. We have talked about, we will have student representation through focus groups and surveys. We did talk about having a student on that committee, although it's quite a bit of meetings, and it would be hard to have one student speak for a lot. And of course, this could affect elementary school students, middle school students, and high school students. So we thought we'd bring in student voice in a variety of ways through student athletes, as well as student surveys, as well as student focus groups. So the core of the membership is as I've described, with key people coming in at different times. We also we plan to have the committee informed early on by some sleep experts who have the background knowledge. So my initial feeling is that at one of the early meetings, the committee we will organize to have presentations so that they can get not only the research and writing, but then they can have some very detailed presentations. Our job, I think, is not to debate the research as much as it is to look at the implications for any changes that you would have. So we felt it was important to have a selection of people coming with an open mind to the table about what is possible and what the implications could be. But they will be deeply informed by both presentations and literature reviews.
Two quick questions. I heard through the public comment period how there's other districts in Connecticut that are already doing this. So there's Greenwich, I think somebody said, and Wilton. Are there other
No, that's okay. It's Greenwich and Wilton basically in the state right now. It's Greenwich and Wilton in the state right now, basically. I've talked to other superintendents who will be following us closely and some close by that may even partner with us at times. I actually have a meeting with a couple of other superintendents in June about that. It would certainly be easier to not be the one central northern Connecticut town at that point. If you paired a few, then that would be different, but we can't dictate what they're going to do. But there's a couple that have expressed interest to me about that.
So there are often times where we want to be a leader, right? And we demonstrate that every day, I think, as a school system. There's other times where you want to be a follower, and because you want to see how it works. And I would mention that, and I'm not swaying either way, but in many cases, being a follower provides you more information, more data, so that helps you make the right decisions. And as far as the makeup of the committee, and I guess the interest is great by the community, but does it make sense to have maybe one of us on the committee as well? I don't know if that...
It's something that will be up to you if you want to have an ad hoc portion. What you could do, rather than be on the committee itself, you could have an ad hoc board like policy, where there's 3 of you that are the liaison to this committee, that's sit-ins and different. I don't think you'd want to necessarily be on the larger committee, but instead have your own separate board committee that's looking at this.
Could I just say, because I've been thinking about that too, that in a way this comes back to what you said about you're not going to make any recommendations. I assume that if the committee concludes unanimously or virtually unanimously that given the science, it's insane for us not to do this, or given the sports schedule, there's no way we could do this, that you would make that clear, right?
I think the I'm obviously not very good at the microphone system here. Okay, so I think the implications will convey concerns, but they will not, it will still be up to the board, your board, to make the decision. But we will try to be as clear in the implications. If there are dire implications in an area, I'm sure we will convey what they are, or serious implications that could be detrimental or positive. So that will be our job, is to inform you of the research, but not just as I said, the brain science research is not something we want to debate as much, or we don't have the expertise to do that, but we can tell you this is the outcomes of changing these times. This is what you'll have to understand if you make this decision.
I particularly appreciate the idea of not debating the research. That's critical, as you mentioned, and just moving to implications and impact on the district and everything.
But I also think there is some sort of problem-solving piece that would be really helpful if you guys did do. So, for example, I think you have to look at the science. You obviously have to do that. But also, there are real concerns out there, sports schedules, childcare, whatever, so that rather than say, well, you lose in this and gain in this, I hope what you'll say is, well, you might have to move, games back a half hour, but that's fine because of X, or we could, right, so that there's responses to problems if we're going to move forward.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's important, whereas the committee's charge won't be tell the board how to vote necessarily. But I do think, just as you hear from presentations, we probably had 15 to 18 presentations, and we've probably heard 6 or 7 different start times is what the start time could be. That would be okay. So I do think that the committee would have to come forward if they were talking about it. Well, this is the logical way you would do it if you were going to do it. And I think that that's the kind of thing that, because of sports, because of transportation, because of costs, because of, you know, if you choose to do this, this is kind of your option and how you go about doing this.
Right, and because of that, there's a Chip Ward dimension to this.
He's on the planning.
All right, thanks, Chip.
Because I do think it would be helpful, Mark, as you said, not necessarily to have someone on the committee, but to have some kind of group that's asking these kind of questions. Well, if 8:30 makes sense, does 8:15 make sense? Or, you know, so that, because again, it's the budget experience, right? We come, we have a list of things, and we don't know enough. And so we're really looking to this committee so that we can know everything there is to know, and make the best decision we can. So
I'm hoping two things with our subgroup work that we'll be doing some deep dives. We can give you those presentations, and we wanted to structure it so that in November you'll hear some of that, and you can ask us for more if we haven't necessarily, you know, if questions come up. So then we'll have another opportunity to present in February on follow-up from November and some new subgroup research or work that has gone on. And we'll also have, we hope to have surveys and focus group information so you can really feel how the town is leaning for folks who may not be able to come out and speak here. We're hoping to design surveys, student surveys, parent surveys, and others, and present you with that so you can see through other means how the community is feeling about the topic and what their thoughts are.
And I've got one. I want to follow up a little bit on the timing. You mentioned the 3 meetings where you'd come give us information. If at the May meeting, if we were to vote to make a change, I can't imagine we would be able to implement it in the very next school year. We've got so many employees, just bus drivers and people working in the cafeterias. People have to prepare for that, right? Do you have an idea when, if we were, do we have an idea of the earliest we could implement the change?
Yeah, if I could jump in, Fran, we would need a year afterwards to make sure we've planned it out appropriately. Not just that, if there were changes, local daycare needs to react to those changes if there are those questions. Town leagues may have to react to some of those changes. So we do want to do this the right way, and whereas I'm a horribly impatient person, but there are times when doing it the right way means doing it the patient way. So I would expect that if there were a vote next year, it wouldn't be for the following school year. It would be for the school year after that, so everything could be planned out appropriately.
Agreed.
So it might be a nuance of language, but debate, because science isn't really an opinion. It either is or it is not. Right? And there are going to be, I have to imagine, with using the word debate, that there's one side and then there's another, right? Remember, scientists thought the world was flat, and one guy said, no, it's round. And the opinion, the debate was that it was flat. And I just want to make sure that we don't go down that rabbit hole. And I'm sure you won't, but the due diligence on the research, both sides of it, the yays and nays of it all. So I just want to, someone said we're not going to debate the research. I just make sure that there's enough research that it is conclusive without a doubt. That's all.
Yes, I think another way to look at that also is the outcomes of districts that have made the change. So you can see if they've made the gains that they had hoped to make by making the changes they've done. So it wouldn't get into necessarily what research are saying, but in actuality, what is the experience in a Wilton, a Greenwich, or other districts, and have they achieved the goals that they thought that the change would achieve?
Exactly. And the only thing as I caution is because things I heard today, I don't have to be a scientist. You just have a little common sense. A lot of what was said is, I don't want to call it theatrics, but a lot of it wasn't true either. And I just want to make sure that we filter that stuff, mom says this because of that, and try to leave the emotions out of it, if you will, and just come back with the data, because that's what's important. And we don't comment on public comments, and it's driving me crazy. Not that I'm for or against it. I just want the truth in advertising is what I want. If you're going to stand up there and talk about something, I just want to make sure that it's true. And a lot of the statistics they gave are not.
Thank you. We look forward to the first report. All right, folks. Tom, do you have anything else?
Just one thing, graduation next Thursday, June 15th. Hard to believe the year is coming to a close, and I know that that this has been a difficult year, and in response to my contract and the nice things you said about me, this is the fact that it's difficult and getting more difficult makes me want to be here more. We'll have difficult choices next year too. This won't be an easy year, but I believe we've got the right people in place, and I just do want to take this opportunity to thank Rick and Andy and Rosina and Chip and Paul Vicenius. His first year, which is hard to believe, it's his first year as assistant superintendent, with the work that Paul has put in this year, and especially Gretchen Nelson, who in a first year has done more work for some at-risk kids than people will ever know, and I am very proud to have them as my colleagues, and they make coming to work an exceptional experience for me, so thank you.
May I ask you, what time is graduation?
I'm glad they're here. They know.
They know.
Who's coming to Hall? Is going to Connor? Yeah.
I always flip a coin last minute.
All right. We hope to see you on our side of town.
I just had a completely unrelated question, if that's okay. In the board update that you sent us, you talked about the racial imbalance questions. And I looked at all the statistics, and I think we're making great strides with Charter Oak, and Smith is in compliance, and it's all wonderful. But it said that there were 4, I think, schools that were in impending imbalance. And if you would just remind me, what's the number, the magic number for imbalance? Because there was numbers there, but I didn't know what the cutoff was. And are we in fact really slipping towards imbalance? And if so, what are we going to do?
We're not moving towards imbalance. We're moving towards more balance everywhere across the board. I'm looking at Chip, and I can't make out what the hand signals. It seems like 15. 55 or 50? 15% is impending. Okay, that's what that means. But overall, we are moving towards a more diversified building in just about every building in the district. I want to say every building in the district. We're moving closer. I hate the wording of the state letter because, to be honest, the wording of the state letter should be, holy smokes, congratulations, West Hartford. What you've done is exceptional. Instead, it's just a look at it. But we are not worried. And Smith being out of remember, one of the questions, we were building the new Charter Oak, and people thought, but that won't do anything for Smith. And we said, no, the idea of that more advertising, more convincing people of both of our magnet schools would work. Smith is in racial balance. Charter Oak will be shortly. And it's one of those things where a program worked. So it's just great. Yeah. No, there's nothing to worry about at the other buildings.
All right. All right, then. Dr. Morrow, we welcome you to the table.
All right, so this is our annual Safe School Climate and Discipline Report, and I'm joined here by Steve Cook and Andrew Clapsaddle. I appreciate them giving up their evening and coming tonight and sharing some of the great things that they're doing at the middle school level. Joy Wright has her 8th grade awards night, and although she could still make it because she is home by now, we did text her and tell her she didn't need to come at this point, but she did want to know whether she would be here. We told her we'd just talk about her. So overall, as you can see from the data, overall the data shows that the majority of our students are appropriate in their behaviors and contribute to a safe and structured learning environment. One of the things, especially at the middle school levels, we recognize that kids make mistakes. And at all of our schools, we focus on behavior regardless of label or category. Negative behavior is addressed in any form, and positive behavior is modeled. As you saw from some of the kids here this evening, we have a lot of great positive behavior that's going on in our schools, and that is being modeled. More than the numbers and this one-time report, I'd remind you that what's important is the positive climate that our schools work hard to build every day. And Steve and Andrew will be sharing some of these programs in a minute and talk about the climate work that's done with parents and with teachers and with students in each of their schools. Each school has a Safe School Climate Committee that's made up of teachers and administrators and parents. It involves our school resource officers. It involves Eric Dempsey, our security director. And at the high school level involves students. And this committee meets and reviews data and reviews the environment of the school. And their goal is to really identify trends and identify areas that need interventions. And so it's this ongoing examination of behavior and climate in the schools that we really think has had incredibly positive gains for us and has really gone a great length to create that environment. We recently compiled the data from our year-end climate surveys, and that's included in the report. This is given to all secondary students, to parents, and to staff. And these survey results are then provided to the schools, which they then break down and go over and talk about within their climate committees. We also give them information on each of the questions, not only their scores, but of the other schools' scores as well, so that they're able to go through and identify where their school may be perceived as not rising to the level of others, and then talking amongst our leadership group about what are some of the things they can do to change those perceptions and to change those environments. And so, as we say, and oftentimes with numbers as we go through the budget and such, numbers can be used in a variety of ways. What's important when we go through and we talk about these discipline numbers and we talk about the discipline report is recognizing that each of these numbers is a child, and a child that may or may not feel safe at school, a child that may or may not feel happy, who may be struggling. And so the goal of these gentlemen and the goal of all of our teachers and our staff at the high school and really at all of our schools is to do everything we can to identify those kids and to work with those kids and to help those kids, because that's when we talk about how in West Hartford our schools and our climate are what drive our programs. That's really the basis of it, and it's helping each and every one of those kids. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Andrew to share some of the work being done with parents and with students and with teachers, and then we'll answer any questions on the report.
Good evening, Board of Ed. One thing you're going to know is as we continue, my voice is going to get deeper, because as I get tired, my voice gets deeper. So if I start sounding like Barry White, that's just what it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about teachers, some of the work we do to create positive climate and culture with our teachers. Now, the way we broke this up was that I would do teachers, Andrew would do parents, and Joy would do students. So we're going to divide students, and I will talk about the work with teachers. So I'll be talking about some of the things they're doing at Sedgwick, at Bristow, and at KP, and kind of talk about the threads between the three schools, okay? So even though Andrew was there and I'm talking about Sedgwick, if you have questions, you can direct them to him. So I'll start with Bristow. So we start every year at Bristow, and this is from a teacher standpoint. So we come into it thinking or knowing that it's a team effort, and we're all trying to do this as a family, and that's how we promote at all of our schools, but a family vibe, a family environment. So I start every school year, and I got this from Jamie Newman, if many of you know Jamie Newman, who I worked with and I learned quite a bit from. with a mindset, or it's a non-negotiable mindset, which is that your health and your family come first and then come the job. And I say that to staff. And saying that gives people that feeling of he believes it, he says it, and then we follow up with it. So I learned that from Jamie, and it's something that I've always believed in, that our families come first, or our health, because if either one of those are out of whack, it's very difficult to do our job of educating students. Secondly, at Bristow, we believe in a professional learning community, so the Rick Dufour's model, in which case we do everything collaboratively, in essence. So all of this major decisions that need to be made are made in a group effort. There's some, obviously, that I have to make the final determinations, and that's just the nature of our job. But everyone feels that they are part of the work that we're doing. So we have committee work on just about everything. We have, for example, our CREST process, SRBI process, for our principals advisory committee, things of that nature. Those are all things that teachers are a part of. And the reason why is that we all feel that teachers want to feel that they are contributing to the culture and the community, therefore buying into the work that we're all doing together, again, creating that togetherness family vibe. So that's a thread that you'll see across all of our schools. We also, at Bristow, and you'll find at the other schools as well, we celebrate everything. There are so many negatives, so many difficult challenges that we face. This year, as Tom talked about, the budget was one, the election was another. Those are challenging times for all of us as a whole. But to get through them, we try to block out the things that are going on outside of us, and we find ways that we can find some happiness, find that joy in the building. So all of us have some sort of work that we do to develop some of the fun celebration. So an example, our team spirit days, you'll have the random dress down day, and if you know teachers, they love a well-placed dress down day. You'll have breakfast, and if you know teachers, we love to eat. So food challenges, our CSIs we start our CSIs with some kind of challenge before we go, some active learning before we dig into some other types of learning. And then another area that for us this year was big for us was the cultural competence training, but in particular, our staffs being able to work with each other to get a sense for who each other is and to get to know each other in a way that they did not know before. And that work that we've done under the direction of Tom and Rosina and the team here, and we were able to, actually one of our sessions was across middle school teaming. So all of our teachers got together in different schools and were able to go to different or various offerings. And it was a great opportunity for us to get to know each other, but also get to know who we are, our own biases, and as it pertains to our students, so we can stay away from those things that do not allow for a fair and equitable education. But within that, what it did was it bonded us all. And so those are just some of the things that we do at Bristow and across Sedgwick and KP that allow us to create a culture in the buildings of unity, of teamwork, and collaboration. Just really quickly, I'll just say at Sedgwick, as the other middle schools, we all have a teaming model, so that teaming allows teams to bond. So you have a school bonding, and then you have your separate team bonding structures as well. We all try to have a cheer committee, which takes care of some of those challenging situations. So, for example, some are more positive than others, weddings, birth of children, but then also when we have loss. So we have a cheer committee, but again, everything is done as a whole, as a unit, to create these cultures that will allow us to thrive regardless of what's going on outside of our buildings. So the common threads are simple. We all focus on teachers' professional and personal well-being. We work collaboratively, as I mentioned, and understand that the culture in the school is determined by all of us, not just the administrative team, and we try to have fun while we're doing it. So that's how we do some of the work. That's just some of the work that we do to try to create a culturally sound and positive environment for our teachers. I am.
Good evening, everyone. What's interesting is, Steve, Joy, and I at the three middle schools have really committed to getting together and communicating as much as we can to share ideas. And what's interesting is when Andy spoke to us a few weeks ago about presenting tonight, as we got together, I'm reading through the notes as we're sharing. I'm like, oh man, both of them have family engagement committees. I should probably do that. So just this one particular thing that we're doing tonight is a way for us to share ideas too. I think, and Steve and Joy would agree, that parent engagement at the middle level is probably one of the most challenging things that we have. And I've worked in different schools, different states, and it's always the same. And because times change and obviously commitment of parents with other children and recreational things and commitments, it's tough to get them in. So I think that we've tried the best we can to organize some of the things or just review some of the things that we currently do and make some small changes to see if we can consistently get more parents in. So one of the things that Steve had shared they do at Bristow is traditionally some of the PTO meetings were just board meetings. So the members of the board would get together, but not necessarily open to all family members. And so that's something that's changed over time, and we've done the same. We had a goal to offer specific speakers the last couple of times that we've had PTO meetings. For instance, one meeting we had our resource officer come in, do a presentation to parents regarding really just apps that are out there that they may or may not be aware of. And, you know, a traditional PTO meeting at the middle school may be a handful of parents. Literally, we had like 30, 35 parents show up. Then we decided, hey, that went well. What else can we do? We had our whole clinical staff come, social workers, and school psychologists talking about at-risk behaviors for kiddos. And most recently, we had the athletic director come. But I think it's just rethinking what we already have established as far as routines, but changing it up, creating an interest for people to come, not just, you know, there's a meeting at school, but how can this really help me or my kiddo within the school, which has been great. I know Joy's done some book clubs, had a shared reading experience and invited people to come in and kind of share their thoughts about those things. Family fun nights across all the schools where not just an activity for kids like a choir or a concert performance, but it's a time, whether it be physical fitness or something else, where parents come in, not just with their student at the middle school, but younger siblings too, and it's a whole family experience. So I think those things are moving in the right direction, but obviously it's something that we'll continue to review and make changes to as well.
Now, in terms of students, which is probably the most fun for us, you know, seeing some of the work, let alone just tonight alone, some of the work that our kids are doing, but in terms of positive school climates for students. So this is one of those areas that Andy talked about where we look at the data and we'll see what kids are basically sharing. Now, at Bristow, one of our goals, Jackie Colon and I, we looked at trying to increase student leadership, number one, but also to get more feedback from students. So for years, I've always thought, I know what students need, I know what students want. But then times are changing, kids are changing. And so what I've realized is I really don't know as much as I thought I did. And so how do I get that information but go to students and ask them? So we've been having these small group meetings with students just to get a sense for some of the issues that are impacting them, some of the issues that are affecting them, and then asking them for ways that we can support them with the work in the building. And so that's something that we've been doing more of. The other schools have been doing that as well. One of the benefits or one of the things I enjoy the most at Bristow, but we do it across the schools, is advisory time. Advisory time is a great opportunity for kids to learn character, education, and then other things, of course. You always have to sneak in something educational like organizational skills and things of that nature. But we do use that time for creating and developing relationships with kids. You want to make sure that all kids feel that they have at least one person in the building that they can go to in a time of crisis or need. And so this advisory time allows for us to do that. So that's something that we do across all of the schools that, again, allows that culture to be built of we have somewhere to go. Speaking of specifically of Sedgwick, they have a special advisory, which, by the way, I will be looking at that idea, twice a month for a 30-minute period where they look at character education traits. They're reviewed, sixth grade focus on transition into middle school and things of that nature. We all have, across all of the schools, a unified theater program. We started ours is the first this year, and we're having a performance on Friday. So if you want to come out, 7 p.m. in Bristow, unified theater production. Donations are welcome. So we all have unified theater. Again, it's similar to unified recess, but it's just building it up to another level. So all of our kids have an opportunity to participate in functions. We also have unified sports in 2 of the schools. We do not at Bristow. We're a little small, but it's something I'm looking into. And at Sedgwick, they also have a Student of the Month luncheons to celebrate students who are doing the work that is expected of them and going above and beyond what their expectations are. All three schools have the web program. I think the presentation did occur, so the Where Everyone Belongs program. It's a great program, great mentoring program, a great transitioning program. So all three schools have that same exact program. We, at Bristol, we have what we call student success assemblies, in which, in there every quarter, because kids need to be reminded. And we give students feedback on their academic and behavioral progress, and then we'll give them some strategies on how to be successful for the remainder of that quarter until we meet again. And then we gauge them on their success in those particular plans that we have. This year, all of us across the three schools, our goals were to diminish mean-spirited behavior and, in some instances, and instances of bullying. And so we've had opportunities to do that in different ways, in different presentations. Most recently for KP and Bristow, we had two Hall juniors, Haley Berkowitz and Isabel Amato, presented to our 8th grade students who are going to be obviously going to the next level. And they came down, powerful presentation, because it was for kids, by kids. And so, again, I learned for the first time of Finstagram, never knew what that existed. And so I learned that term, and so it's fake Instagram, where people are very mean-spirited to each other. And so these young ladies taught us quite a bit, us adults, but also showed and taught our students who to go to, how to respond to these negative responses. Again, creating a culture, and we want the kids to know we're putting this together for them, so that it's not just at Bristow or KP, and I'm hoping that they actually, we talked about expanding their program so that they can also include Sedgwick, and maybe Conard as well, but that they know that we are doing this for them to understand that things ratchet up as you get older, but there's always a way, there's always a hopeful way to resolve conflicts. And so that creates that culture of, I now know who to go to, and it's going to go vertical. So it's not just going to stay with us, it's going to go up. So that's, again, some of the work that we're doing. In addition, we are, at Bristol, we had a Be the Change presentation by Camfell Productions. It's a multi-sensory presentation that basically encourages students to be a part of the change that they want to see in schools. Again, that's a big message. Kids have to be there because, you know, when they get to middle school, there's that silence, that hush. We don't want to tell anybody what happened. We're trying to encourage them to either share or be a part of the change that they want to see. And so we're doing that at Bristol, but they also have similar programs, both at KP and at Sedgwick. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about KP. They have, based on the student survey, they work with student council to talk about morning advisories and things that they want to keep, stop, or change. Okay, and that feedback is then received from students and given to teachers, and they make plans to change their advisory as needed. Okay, so but also, in addition, to reinforce their school values, the students brought in an Anti-Defamation League individual who presented to 6th and 7th grade students on stepping up against bias. Again, you see that thread of having students be a part of the process of resolving some of these issues. And again, she mentions the Hall, Haley and Isabel coming to present to their students. And again, they talk about the different leadership opportunities that they have. So our web leaders, they have KP student ambassadors, we have Bristol ambassadors. I believe you have student leadership as well, who are their goal is to help design, or their goal is to actually support orientations and things of that nature, but it's giving kids leadership opportunities. All of these, these are just a small sample, by the way. This is not everything that we're doing, but we'd be here much longer than we need to be. But all of these things are just those kinds of pieces that we have now that we're trying to create a culture where kids feel comfortable coming to us as adults when necessary, but more so a culture where they can learn at optimal levels. Okay?
I just want to add, to first of all thank these two gentlemen for the work that they do on a daily basis, and also Joy. I'm sure she's watching at home and will yell at me if I don't acknowledge her. Middle school is not easy, and it's not easy to lead a middle school. And the work that they do on a daily basis to work with their staff and with their parents, and most importantly with their students, is very impressive. One of the, whether it's middle school or high school, our kids are in school to learn. And part of learning is making mistakes. And, we hope that we give them an opportunity to learn from mistakes that they make. And as I always told the sixth graders, I don't expect you to be perfect. I just expect you to not make the same mistake twice. And I think that's a model that we always have in our schools, and I think it's something that's reflected on a daily basis. So we'll open to any questions that you have on the report or anything you've heard.
First, thank you for the presentation. And both you, Andrew, and Steve, I was happy to hear in terms of the vehicles that you set up, because when I was going through the report and was looking at the number of discipline actions, I often say, and I know this to be true, why do we have this? Isn't there somebody who sees something before it actually happens? Like, how can we get in front of it before it happens? Because you're right, they're going to make mistakes. We know that. We've made many mistakes when we were their age. But because this is a different time, we don't want it to be something tragic if we can avoid it. So I just want to thank you both for being able to identify and setting up these different vehicles, especially where kids can be leaders and be some peer mentors for some of those kids who may feel like they're on the outside, or maybe they're being bullied silently and not sure what to do, especially if they're new to the environment when they come through the school during the school year and weren't there from the beginning or in the district from the beginning. So I want to thank you, because you really identified some key areas to help students who may be struggling, and even some of those students who think that they have it all sewn up, who may be bullied or may encounter something and not sure what to do. Being able to identify with an adult is very important, but I think a lot of times they'll go to a peer first to say, do you know what I should do, or who's a cool teacher or guidance that I can go to and speak to. And then one more comment I want to make, and that's the whole social media, and I'm glad you said the whole new thing. I find the social media being so interesting because of the students and their age, and not really understanding the severity behind doing some things that they think, oh, this is fun or what have you. And it's used as a bullying tactic. So you use that and you do something, or it's negative, and then they film it and then they upload it to everybody else and not really realize the impact that it has on that particular student. So I just want to thank you for being able to recognize those types of things and making it available for these students.
I actually was going to say very much the same thing, so thank you, Carol. I haven't marked at several points in the report, how do we make sure it trickles down to the kids? And I have to say, both Rosina's presentations before of the kinds of things that are going on in the schools and this presentation answers those questions. Because I was struck at the difference between the perception of teachers about the safe schools and the students and parents, right? That the teachers think it's way more friendly than the students and parents. And of course, that's 8th grade. I mean, we get that, But my question was, how are we going to address that gap? And I really commend you on doing that. I just have a quick question for you, which is, given the importance of I just forgot what they're called, the group meetings, advisories. If you remember, during the budget discussions, some people had suggested ending teams. I know it's not relevant for Bristow, but ending teams in 8th grade. And we didn't know enough, and so we said, we don't want it a budget issue, we want to think about this. But given the importance of these sessions, I'm just wondering, does that say anything about what we should think about teams for 8th grade?
If I could, yes and no. I'm sorry, yes and no. There are many schools, and we could certainly devise a schedule that would keep an advisory system. The goal of advisory is really having a time on a daily basis, or 2 or 3 times a week, where one adult is sitting down and working with 10 kids. And it's that idea. Advisory gets to that one question that we always ask the kids. There's an adult in this building who knows me. someone I trust, someone I can go to. As you said, Carol, someone who's that trusting person that I can speak to. And so that's the goal of advisory. And it's an important part of middle school, whether we have a team or not. It's certainly easier on teams, but we have systems in their schools all across the country that have strong advisory systems without teams. We have advisory systems at our high schools without teams as well.
I just wanted to make sure that it didn't influence this other question, because we don't know yet what the other answer is, but thanks.
But I will say this, teaming is, for us, it's an essential part of the work we're doing, understanding clearly the budget piece and all of that. But the teaming aspect is one of the first things I talked about when we talk about teachers and their ability to connect with each other, because that's a critical piece too. That culture that teachers create when bonding with each other allows them to work well together when working with students who are either challenging or on the far end doing exceptionally well. And that connection between that, and not to even talk about data teams and things of that nature that we want to implement, but the teaming piece is, so it's almost two separate things. Like Andy said, advisory is something that we would hope would never go away regardless of the structure, but the importance of the structure is that it does allow for teachers to create a continuity amongst themselves as well.
And just to sort of, I don't know if it's reassure you or continue the conversation, we were absolutely clear that we did not want to make the decision on budget grounds, and that we were persuaded, certainly from what everybody said, that teams were critical for 6th and 7th grade. The only question that had come up was, is it more useful for 8th grade, or is it more useful for them to be independent? And that's a separate question. I'm not saying you should talk about it now. That's right. I was just wondering if that advisory filtered into that, and what you're saying is no. So, cool. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the input. I just want to say I've learned in my almost 2 years on the board is the insights from the principals are very valuable, and I hope you keep that information coming. Learned a lot there, and you may have heard many years ago I was in the Army, and I sometimes think of the school district as a military structure. That would make Kim Eisenhower over here. But then an Army guy, but I think of it as a Navy. Each school is a separate ship, and you're the captain of the ships, and you guys know what's going on. But it's nice to know you get together and you're finding the best practices. We saw that with the students and hearing it about what you're doing for the teachers and the staff. That's great, and for the parents as well. I've seen that evolve in my own experience over the last several years. It's very encouraging. I also just want to give you a shout out. The nights that I've seen principals of all schools put in, attending concerts is just one example. Steve and I have seen each other a little too much recently. So it is certainly appreciated. One thing I want to clarify on this serious infractions, can you just remind me, Andy, the verified bullying, what's the definition of a verified bullying incident, please?
The verified bullying is a multiple offense where there's more than one time that there has been actions from one student or a multiple number of students to a student, and it's something that is then gone ahead and verified, clarified through an investigation, and is documented.
I'm glad you asked that question, because people at home sometimes get confused by the number. Look at it. The state definition of bullying is what we're talking about. There's nothing that would frustrate a parent more that would come in and say, my child was bullied, for our response to be, well, no, technically they weren't, because this wasn't a pattern of behavior, and it wasn't, no, we have to categorize it as mean act or as the act, because it has to be repeated for it to be categorized, repeated and targeted for it to be categorized as bullying in the state report, and verified.
And I know in some of the meetings we've been in as members of the board, we've seen the work that has been done over the years with individual students before it gets to a level where it might appear on a report. And I think that's good information. It's not always evident to everyone, but I know the hard work that's put in to keep people on the correct path.
Actually, Dave, to follow up on that, one of the stats on that page that I would like to highlight, because I do think it goes to when you talk about the work that we do with kids to try and again, if you've made a mistake, to try and correct that behavior and move forward, where it talks about 69% of all of our suspensions are served in school. That's actually up from last year's number of 53%, so that's a significant increase for us, and it's really been a renewed focus at all of our secondary schools to focus on keeping students in school suspension and working with them and having them be working with clinical staff and working with counselors to really develop those skills rather than just send them home.
I have a question. First, I'd like to thank you for this because there's so much great information, so much being done. I think middle school can be such a challenging time, and I say thank goodness for the middle school teachers and staff because some people just love and get middle schoolers. One reason you may not have as much parent involvement, I remember in elementary school, them saying, by fifth grade, lay back, you need to hang back parents, let them go, let them be more independent, and we take it literally, and and I think that's one of the reasons that you don't see as many at the middle school level, but anyway, that's just a side thought. But in looking at this, I know this is middle and high school data, but what is done with the elementary kids? I'm just curious, before they have issues that rise to the level of having to track and getting some of these numbers that are represented for a secondary level. What's done at the elementary level? Because we're hearing more and more about behavioral-based issues that are occurring there. Just
We have similar tracking and such at the elementary level. It rarely rises to a reportable suspension or anything like that. Remember that these are state reporting codes. And so what we do at the elementary level is, again, each elementary school has a safe climate committee. I will work with them. The principals work with teams of the teachers as they're broken down in third grade teams, fourth grade teams, fifth grade teams. And when students are exhibiting certain behaviors, that's when those interventions take place. And so it's really behavior plans are put in place at the elementary level. We have extensive support services through clinical staff that are put in place at the elementary level. And so when it rises to a situation that we start to look at, is this pattern of behavior with the student? Is this something that we need to have a different level of intervention? That's when the principal, myself, oftentimes Gretchen Nelson, will come together and sit down and talk about the resources that might be available.
If I could just add one thing with that, and Andy answered it very well. That's something at the elementary school, we don't want to just send a kid home because, okay, well, you did this. The only way that happens is if they're a threat to themselves or to another child. That's it. Because realistically, we got to get to work and make sure we're providing the tools and the help for that family and for that child to be able to access their education in a way that's going to make them successful. And the sooner we begin addressing those issues, the better off we are. So that's really been our focus.
Thank you. And then one other question. I think I ask this every year, but I still forgot. But when you look at items, fighting altercation versus physical altercation, what is the difference there?
I'm glad you asked that, Tammy. And if you'd like, I can point you to the state definitions of all of these. They're hysterical, actually. Not hysterical, but they are. There's a difference, by the way, between theft and stealing and robbery. Robbery is actually confronting the person and taking it directly from them versus simply if I was to take something that Andrew didn't realize I took. That would be theft. But robbery is saying, Andrew, give me your wallet. The physical altercation is when there is no injury. And the state definition actually includes my favorite definition because they include the word tussle in it. That is a tussle, is a physical altercation with no injury. Okay? It's a great image of, 18th century guys just holding each other by the lapels. Yes.
That's a great image. I love that. Now I know middle school's tough. And my first example of that was my oldest daughter's first basketball game at Hall High School against students' teachers. And I remember walking in and seeing, some behavior stuff going on because the place was packed. And the students were playing the teachers, and it was fun, and a lot of kids there. But I noticed how much security was there versus like a hall basketball game or a football game. And I remember asking Tom, I go, well, why so much security at a middle school game versus a high school game? Which was, well, sometimes you need it. Because the kids, I guess, whatever's going on there in middle school, I think we all kind of know what's going on there, but it's different, and it's not easy. So I applaud you for that. And I do this every year. There's some numbers that stick out for me. Bristow, you should be 75% less to 2/3 less in fractions than the other two middle schools, just in size alone, if the law of averages works. So, 1710 physical altercation sticks out for me with Bristow. And then even the 1810 threat intimidation, because you're similar. But then another number sticks out too for me is Sedgwick, 13 for 3,800. So, you talk about trends and things like that, and I know we talked about this last year as well. At least I talk about every year I see these numbers. Those are the things that, in my mind, if I'm in charge of this particular school or even kids or whatever have it, those are the numbers that would stick out to me. And what can I do? How do I address that? And I remember last year, I think, one of the numbers was really high, and it was because 17 people got caught one time. So the numbers were high. So it's actually, you can explain those numbers. And that, I guess, I'm not asking for a list of exactly what happened, but those numbers stick out to me that, for 1810, very similar to KP and Sedgwick for Bristow, and then physical altercation 1710, higher or just the same, and I would just expect those numbers, law of averages, to be less. So when these trends come out, how do you deal with those? Give me an example of exactly how you would maybe, even on the Sedgwick one with the 3,800 and those other two that I made, how is
Well, Mark, the data on this is reviewed quarterly with the assistant principals and myself. I meet with the assistant principals once a month for both middle school and for high school. And when we are looking at data like this, that's the kind of things. Do we understand behind this? Is the Sedgwick, if I remember right, there was an incident with 5 or 6 kids about vaping. And, that's all it takes for a number. So I'm confident, without getting into details behind it, that we understand the numbers behind here.
Yeah, and I don't want you to deliberate here today, as long as, that's comforting, as long as quarterly, and that's all that I ask for.
And one kid in these cases can be a repeat offender also. So that's something else that you can get somebody that skews the data on this one, so.
And I.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks. Thank you very much. I need to take a 2-minute break, guys. Everyone else as well.
I was like, what? I was like, 2 people just left. What's going on? And it's so for 2.5 hours. I'm just a little bit. How are you?
Thank you, Andrew.
I'm gonna tell,
We back?
I think so.
I'm so jealous. Tomorrow's physics day, and I don't take physics, so all my friends are going to be at Lake Compound, and I'll be by myself. Super fun. Not all my friends, just like.
All right, folks. Welcome back.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't.
I know, it always annoyed me we lived on the west end of it.
Moving on to our financial report. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the financial report for the period ending April 30, 2017. Motion. Second.
Second. All right.
Dave,
Now,
take it away.
I am on. Dave Polyuk for the Financial Committee. Jay is not with us tonight. I am presenting the budget for the period ending April 30th, 2017. Our next budget presentation will be by Jay Sarzan, and that will be in our September meeting, and that will take us through the end of the school year. At that time, we'll have the full picture. But there's a really good news with this budget that we've got right now, and if I can quote Mr. Ward, we're right on the razor's edge here. It's very interesting. As you look through this, you're going to see a lot of zeros. The planning, where we've fallen, really in line. And that's a credit to the hard work done by everyone and keeping the expenses in line. I want to keep them going that way. We do expect to see some changes between now and the end of the year. But as I look on page 17 of our booklets, the financial report for the period, you can see, all these zeros. So that's good news here. And really not a whole lot to report. It's pretty skimpy, so I don't want to, at this time of night, belabor it. As we look, go to page 18, the financial report, you'll see again, numbers on the sides here. When you consider the amount of our overall budget, these numbers are very minor. We're down 6,000 here, up 28,000 there, which is money, but in the big picture, it's not a big variance. We do have one large number I want to point out, 5191, unused sick leave at retirement. That's a $100,000 variance, just because we have more retirements than we had budgeted for. That's just how that is falling out this year. And that's the only one of these numbers that sticks out here at all. And then as we go down.
Can I just ask, I just didn't understand. It's not that we have more retirements, it's that they used up all their sick leave? What is the unused part?
So, by contract, teachers who have unused sick leave at retirement are allowed to cash out 1/2 of it up to 90 days. So they're allowed to accumulate roughly 200 days a year. So if they have accumulated 90 or more, they're allowed to get paid up half of their sick time up to a total of 90 days. So the maximum we pay out is 45 days. In the contract this current contract or the one before, we've phased that out for new hires. But that won't happen. I'll be long gone before that number goes away.
Thank you, Chip. Not a problem. Thanks for the clarification there. And again, just kudos to Chip for knowing these things off the top of his head, whereas I need to refer to a manual somewhere. And so we can even just go to the next page, page 19. And again, I refer to you to the far right column, change from prior in a month. Zip. Again, so really nothing to report here. And the same with the special funds reports. All minor changes, nothing to discuss. We used to look at instrument rental. There's, again, nothing there either. But the last page is one that's very interesting, our nutrition services report. And actually what we're showing for the month ending April 30th is that we actually made $11,413 during that month. We had a profit versus last year where we lost $13,149. Now, these are good numbers, and we certainly appreciate that, but we do know that by the end of the school year, we're projected to have a loss in nutrition services. Would it be a large amount? You know, we'll see. I know there's, Chip, what do we say, were there fewer serving days coming up there?
There are 6 fewer serving days, so we had a very good May. So we just put in the claim for federal reimbursements, our highest claim ever, and then and then in June, we'll have more days. Last year, we ended on June 12th, I think it was, and so now we're ending on June 19th, so we've got another, that's where we'll make up the days. 1 day in May, extra day in May, and 5 extra days in June.
So can I just ask a quick question about that? How did we do that? And can we do that again? No, that we had. That we had a profit. Did we do something right, and if so?
Couple things. One is, you know, we've been more careful with our food and cafeteria expenses, but the biggest issue is you know, we've reduced our labor and benefits costs. That will probably reverse next year because, you know, this year was a good year for benefit expense. Plus, we reconfigured what personnel we had, who was eligible for benefits, stuff like that. So it helped us on the Nutrition Service Fund. Next year, you know, our benefits costs went way up this year, as you saw as part of our budget. That will impact their bottom line as well. So, you know, the goal is we need to get more people eating lunch. I mean, you know, that's our core mission.
Quick question. Line 5191, use sick time. I know we talked about it, but I think, as my memory serves me, we changed the way sick time could be used, and it was implemented years ago in the new contract, or is that this new this contract?
It's for all employees hired, I believe, after the start of this new. This thing just keeps. Yeah, something's weird.
See, I just shut you off.
You know, that's a setup. That's interesting. Yeah, there must be something in the setup. I'll have to figure that out. Normally, more than one person can speak at a time. I'm sure it must be some button Mark pressed.
Yes, it's sequestering. He's sequestering.
So as you know, with the most recent contract, any new employees will.
Fruition, we won't see that time.
We won't see. Sorry.
All right, 5191, we won't see the real impact for that for many years to come. Well, we'll see it incrementally, but it'll look different 20 years from now in this line item, right?
I'll be long gone.
You got to fix these microphones first.
And that concludes the report. Any questions or additional questions?
Thank you very much, Dave. All those in favor of approving the financial report for the period ending April 30, 2017, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Moving on. We have 2 minutes to approve. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on May 16, 2017. We have a motion. Second?
Second.
Any changes, comments, edits, additions? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting of May 16, 2017, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? I think we were all here. Ayes have it. And recommendation that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the special Board of Education meeting of May 30th, 2017. Please.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Comments? No, you can't say aye until I ask for it.
Was the time wrong?
Yes. Right, that's right. You ended at 11:45?
Yeah.
10:45.
It was 10:45.
Oh.
Oh, we'll make the change. 10:45?
No, I think we went right to lunch. You guys left early, some stayed late.
Okay, all right, well, yeah, okay, that's right. These are precision. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the special Board of Education meeting on May 30th, 2017, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Moving on to board member reports. Anybody have anything to say, offer, discuss?
Let's see, I just, yeah, we've got two going, but I noticed that's Mark, so he may have the power. Yes, okay. I just wanted to, my heart was full tonight, and part of that was seeing a young lady I knew from when she was in class with my daughter in pre-K, and I realized I'm getting old. But a couple of things I jotted down. Do you remember, we had Kat up there, a high school girl who wrote the book. She made a comment about they had to learn how to pronounce the names of the students. That says a lot right there. It says a lot about our district. That we've got such a variety. I love that. I jotted it down. I also wanted to just give a shout out. I guess it's principal night for me. But we talked about the magnet schools, both Smith and Charter Oak. And I have to concur with what Tom said. Our two magnet schools have been out there promoting their schools. The magnet school principals have been out there, Juan Melian and Teresa Giolito have really made an effort. And it's another example of these folks giving up their evenings to go out to pre-K, transition to kindergarten night, for example, or other events. And I can just remember so many times I've seen them out there doing the hard work of promoting the school as had been discussed on this board even before I came on the board. And we're definitely seeing the benefits of that, and I want to acknowledge that as well.
All right, thank you. Over to our final report, and we'll have something to say about them after, of our student board representatives.
This is our last report. Yeah, I've been here not as long as Sarah has, but still.
We're one of them out.
Yeah.
One said no loss.
So, from Conard. So last Thursday and Friday of last week was Unified Theater. So it was our 15th annual show. It's across town, so it's Hall and Conard. And this year we actually had two programs. We had one in October, I believe, and then one in the spring, which is the one we've usually had. And the one in the spring was celebrating its 15th anniversary. I'm sure you all know, but Unified Theater was started at Conard by Miss Connery, actually's daughter, and it's now become a national program that has a company. It's really amazing, and so the show went great. Somehow it always seems to pull together. It was great, and everyone seemed to really enjoy themselves. And then there was a little celebration. There was like a reception afterwards. It was great, and so sort of moving on to sports, athletes Matt Chorches and Luke Carroll made all tournament last week for golf. The team placed fourth at the CCC Championship for golf, and girls golf placed third at CCC Championships. Last week we had the Conard High School Art Show. There was some amazing art and some equally amazing senior showcases. I'm not sure if you are all aware, but basically we have these big boards where we have each side of a board is one senior, and they get to fill the board with their art, and they really get to show their stuff off if they're in, I believe it's AP Studio Art. Also, we had our senior trip to Six Flags last week, along with a lot of our fun senior activities. We had our senior prank. I don't know, it wasn't that much of a prank, but it was fun. We just went on to, we sort of left at 8:45 in the morning, went onto the turf and just all hung out and played yard games and stuff. It was actually very fun. I had a good time. Yeah, all day. And we grilled burgers and stuff. It was nice. And then the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, will be holding their senior night from 5 to 7 p.m. this Thursday to decorate graduation caps and sign yearbooks and eat some food. So that'll be nice. And then Thursday is the last school day for seniors, which is incredible to me, the fact that we've made it. And so, yeah, it's a bittersweet wrapping up of the school year, which is it's pretty incredible. So, and I just wanted to say also thank you so much to the board. It's been very interesting. Like I've really liked my time here. So thank you.
Do you know where you're going?
I'm going to be attending the University of Chicago next year.
Okay, so hello everyone, last time. So I don't really know what the track team feeds their athletes, but clearly it really pays off at Hall because Jenna Zydanowicz, proud dad over there, his daughter, freshman, came in third place at State Opens in the 1600 and broke the school record. And then Miller Anderson came in sixth at State Opens in the 800. Connor Blodgett came in first in the 300-meter hurdles and broke his own school record. And then the boys 4x100 relay, Miller Anderson, Mason Stabile, Connor Blodgett, and Josh Rivera broke their own school record and came in seventh place overall. And then at Class L championships, Julia Silverman was the high jump champion, and she'll be doing that at UConn next year. And then the boys 4x100 the girls 4x100 came in fourth, and the girls 4x4 came in third overall. And then the 3200 Patrick Cassidy came in third, Willem Landis came in seventh. And the 800 Miller came in third, and Muhammad A came in seventh. And then the 800 Jenna Zydanowicz again came in third. And then the 300 hurdles, we swept that with Connor Blodgett and Giovanna Dionisio. The baseball team, the boys varsity baseball team, won the Mayor's Cup. And then on May 24th, there was a ceremony and college commitment ceremony for the 22 college athletes from Hall for next year. And our physics team came in second place at the Physics Bowl. The art show was last week. Senior outing was last week. We went to Six Flags. Prom was last weekend at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Boys golf won CCCs. Physics Day is tomorrow at Lake Compounds. My last day is Thursday. And I go on the 15th. And I also want to just say that Maddie Pliskin is taking over for me next year. Wave to everyone. There she is. She's been here all night, so, you know.
Stuck it out.
Yeah, she's trying to, tomorrow I'll get a text saying, Sarah, come back. And I also just want to thank, yeah, true. I just want to thank everyone for having me. It's been fun sitting over here, you know, learned a lot. It's really been a great experience, and just thanks.
I want to throw in that next year from Conard is going to be Grace Andrews. You guys are going to love her. She's awesome.
Well, welcome in advance to Grace and to Maddie. And to the two of you, to Sarah and Hugo, thank you too so much for taking a lot of your time to be with us, to give us updates, but most importantly, to share your insights, critical insights, courageous insights. This board is always the better for the input from our student representatives, and I think you two have done a very good job, an excellent job this year. And as a small token, very, very small token of our appreciation we have for you, we have little parting gifts that I'll give to you when we conclude the meeting. Anyway, thanks and best of luck next year. Go. If you ever need a letter of recommendation, you know where to come. Yes, absolutely. All right, folks, moving on. Future business. There's always future business. Announcement of future meeting dates. September 5, September 19, back here, 7 p.m. Town Hall in the next academic year. Any requests for future agenda items? Seeing none, any comments from visitors? No? We have no executive session. May I have a motion for adjournment? Second? All those,
Can we vote on this?
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.